Yeah, I mean, I think the problem I have is for some reason I feel compelled to tell the world about these aliens. I don't want to because I'm aware of how it sounds, right? And but the annoying thing is, whilst aliens is extreme, I know it's extreme, don't get me wrong, but it's the same principle. If it because if I was saying if I told you this is a made up story, but if I told you my wife who's a nurse goes to the hospital and
But they can't explain it in a physical context, or they're not
yeah,
comfortable with it.
yeah. I don't know if I would say that it's an external force necessarily, or whether it's just the current resonance that we're picking up on. Like it probably, as far as my understanding goes from like the occult realm, our collective consciousness is what impacts our experience here.
Is to think is that contrived or not, or what?
I definitely think they overplayed their hand. I think
Yeah,
you know that
definitely.
silly analogy of boiling the frogs?
Yeah.
It's almost like they turned the heat up too quick. And I think if they went a little bit slower, then
Yeah.
they might have gotten away with it, to be fair.
100% would have done.
I think they were a little bit rushed for whatever reason.
Yep.
And now I kind of want to say maybe it's because they knew some kind of event was coming and maybe they felt pressured. Maybe it was an internal war between like the two sides of the elite or whatever you want to call it. Maybe it was that. She checked you in, then you went like the next year or something, and it was the
No.
same woman. The fact that, because that would have been like pretty crazy that she remembered you a year or two later, but still at the airport. But the fact she's at Cobra's wedding, it's like,
Exactly. We
it's
wasn't like
almost,
in Sainsbury's or Tesco's or someone like, oh, hello. I think I checked you. At a fucking wedding. And it's
it's like,
Cobra who I get on very well with.
yeah,
And she is the partner of his most long term friend.
wow,
Yeah, weird.
super weird.
Hate using this word aliens.
You want to use NHI, non-human intelligence.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, we have to use a word, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but
Is that the shock and awe? Do you think that's the next stage of shock and awe to wake people up in this 9/11 2020 next stage? It's got to be something extraterrestrial, something paranormal, something out of this world to really sort of get that next out of the box thinking, oh my God, we need to sort ourselves out.
I mean,
Is that where it comes from?
let me maybe give you an example. When I say about maintaining openness, let me give you an example, right?
Yep.
So, as an example, we can use CBDCs, right? Like, if if you haven't done any research, then it's easy to hear people talking about the doom and gloom of CBDCs. I was thinking, as you were speaking, then I was thinking, I'm not sure exactly what you said that made me think of it, but something you said reminded me of an experience this weekend I just had, right?
Yep.
I recorded a collab with a guy called Sunny,
Yep.
and we, so that video will be out like Monday or Tuesday, maybe. Um, it was supposed to be an hour, and he was supposed to walk us through the yen carry trade unwind, and he ended up. It was a 2 hour stream, so we we overrun by an hour, and the last hour we were sharing experiences for spirituality, for health, for mental approach. Like we just got talking basically, and I just gelled with this guy. I was like, this guy's really cool, right? But it's really interesting because after I got done recording it, I was like, man, what a great guy. I can't wait to upload the video. I posted on Twitter to say, just got done recording a conversation with Sonny. I can't wait to share it with the world. And there was loads of people in the comments like, "Oh, f this guy, or f that guy, or I'm not gonna watch it." Blah, blah. And I was thinking, you, these people don't seem to realize that they're coming from a position of weakness. Like,
And if it works, it works. Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I've fucking week's been really. I haven't done a lot work wise because I didn't really fancy doing anything work wise, dude.
Yep.
It just really rocked me. Albeit I was. Do you know the even weirdest thing about this? And you know what I'm like with my weird sensitivity.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday, I woke up during the middle of the night going, no, it wasn't Tuesday. That was wrong. It might have been at the weekend. Oh no, it might have been Tuesday night. I don't know. Anyway, it was at the beginning of the week of the previous weekend. I woke up during the night going, don't take my barley. You are not taking my barley. No
Oh
way you're
wow,
taking my
really?
barley. You're not doing it. And I remember seeing him pass in my dreams. And I said to my wife, I said, oh, I just had a really weird dream. She's going, oh yeah, you're always having weird dreams. But yeah, that one really sort of stuck out as though it wasn't really much of a dream. It was just like a bit of a reality.
Yeah.
And I was distraught, you know. No, fucking, I don't care. Anything else. Do not take my mail. Do not take. No, I don't know. I remember waking up like, that. No,
Yeah.
absolutely no. Please
Yeah.
don't. Please don't. A week later, I'm putting him down.
Damn.
Fuck, man.
A message from the universe.
Yeah. Sunday night, shall I tell you something else?
Yeah, please do.
By this time, the day before, you know, obviously all this fucking horribleness. Sunday night, I was laying in bed just thinking, fuck me, man. And all these thoughts were going through my head about I was looking up at the ceiling, just laying in bed and just going like, come on, look, why is it that you want me to deeply believe in something, but there's all the time and all this like existence that I've been around on this planet, there's this total detachment between physicality and spirituality. And I was just really pissed off because I probably knew what I was going to go through the following day.
Yeah.
And I just said, for fuck's sake, and this was my very words, sorry for swearing so much. I said, for fuck's sakes, will you please just show me? Show me what I'm supposed to believe in. And then I went through that the day after.
Wow.
And it was almost like, oh man, why did you show me that? For God's sake, man.
Be careful what you wish for, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is, but it obviously wasn't what I wanted at the
Yeah, yeah, of
time.
course, of course.
What I wanted was maybe some sort of manifestation in the bedroom to say
Right.
like, Andy, come on, pull yourself together. This is what it's about, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas deep down, and I don't know about you, do whether you ever have this through your life. It's all about this conflict that goes on with inside you between belief and physical, like
yeah,
spiritual, physical. And for me personally, dude, all through my existence, there's been physical questioning without sincere 100% belief. And yet there's so many signs that I've gone through in my life where I can go, you knew that. Why don't you believe in it more? It's really weird. Does that make sense at all?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, are you familiar with the principle of ontology?
No.
It's like how can I explain it? It's like basically that we live in this kind of universe that wants to guide you. That's the principle of it. And I guess you could call it like guidance from God, or some people would put all kinds of different
Yeah.
labels on it or whatever. Some people get annoyed by this idea, either because they just don't believe in it at all, or that they
Yeah.
think it's some kind of like new age BS or whatever. But the whole idea is that you can listen to the guidance. You can ask for the message. You can ask for the push in the right direction for things to be revealed. And so long as you are kind of in tune with that, then you can. actually receive that kind of thing, right? And I very much believe this to be the case. Like, I think everyone deep down probably experiences this like once or twice, even if it's some kind of weird story where people are like, oh, I don't know why, I just acted this way and it got me out of danger. Like, I would have crashed the car, but for some reason, I just felt compelled to go left there, right? And then they somehow managed to avoid some catastrophic accident or whatever it is. Like intuition almost, right? That's basically what it is. It's like a nudge of intuition. But yeah, I very much believe that that's the case. And there's like a free will component, I think, where you get to basically make your own choices. But if those if those choices are going to force you to have a car crash, because and it's not your time, then I believe that's when this kind of like nudge in the right direction comes into play. But it sounds, as you were saying that to me, it sounded very much like that. That's what it sounded like to me. Almost like you could feel it come in, and then you asked for the guidance, and then you were shown it, right? And I mean, you could put any kind of label on that you want. You could say that it was God, or like I said, you call it whatever you want, right? Call it intuition. Some people like to say we are the gods, and like I don't really, I don't really have any interest in like debating that or trying to convince anyone of anything. I think it depends on your own experiences and stuff. But as you were telling me, like I say, that's kind of what it sounded like. And I had a similar idea about this. I know you said you wanted to talk about the aliens, but
No, it's
I
fine.
was, yeah,
It's fine. We'll probably get there.
yeah. But I had a similar experience recently. So like, I was sure that like there would be some kind of big alien thing coming in
Yeah.
about March, April time.
We spoke about it at the end of last year.
Yeah, we did, right? And there was some stuff, right? There was like a bunch of drones or whatever flying around. There seemed to be some sort of disclosure stuff going on, and I was thinking, oh, here we go. Like this, I don't know why, but for some reason it just and then it didn't really happen, and everyone kind of forgot about it apart from me, I think, right? um, I wasn't getting trolled online for making a silly call or prediction. I think people just basically thought it was stupid and they forgot about it, to be
Yep.
honest. But
Yep.
this kind of, I was every morning on my dog walk is when I do like the biggest part of my deep think of the day. And it was just haunting me. I was like, how can this be the case? How can this be the case? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like I'm sure this was a communicated idea. And I'm going like maybe I'm schizophrenic, right? And then anyway, I think like a week ago, maybe something like that. I'm on a dog walk, and it literally hit me like a train. Like you're an idiot. It's the following year. It's Easter next year, right? And so I'm like hesitant to even post this online because I've already kind of been wrong about it, right? But I was like, nah, like listen to the ontology, right? When you get this kind of intuition and this guidance, I think you should listen to it, you should pay attention. And I left out this detail before, but the first time I posted it, I didn't want to post it. I posted it because I genuinely felt like I was being told to post it, right? Anyway, then I'm reluctant to post the update. So I tweeted something like I tagged the original one and said, I think I misinterpreted the message. I think it might be, but I think it was supposed to be Easter next year. And when I posted this, it was like riddled with, I was like, oh, here they come, right? They're going to be like, oh, not again, Camel, like go and get help or whatever, blah, 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 blah.
I
But funny
saw it. I
enough,
did see it actually, to
yeah.
be fair.
And I said on the tweet something like, if I'm wrong, I'll never speak about it again. I'm sorry or
You
whatever.
did, yeah. Yeah.
But I got loads of people reaching out to me, sending me video links and just all sorts, and people like whatever that apparently there's some kind of celestial event which is synonymous with a change of world dynamics and an enlightenment that comes to the human race, and apparently it's right around that Easter time frame. And I just couldn't help but think, I mean, look, either we get there and nothing happens, and then we go, Camel like has got some sort of mental health problem, right? But if it does happen, then I think that to me will permanently cement the idea of this kind of like ontology that is kind of communicating with us to try to let us know about things that are going to be important in our life. So so yeah, it was just really weird, but the intuition just hit me so strong. And like I said, I didn't really want to mention it, and then suddenly people were like, "Cameron, have you seen this?" perfectly aligns with Easter. And I'm like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I was like, maybe there is something to it. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't really like talking about it.
Well, no, it's a weird one, and that's that. Your reason why you just said that is the reason why I looked up at my ceiling Sunday night and said, "For fuck's sake, will you just say?" I don't want to. It was almost like that. I do not want to be keep questioning this intuition of mine. I want someone to physically talk to me, and it's like confined to just say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you're fine. You can say that. It's cool." But like, does that? I don't know, dude. Does that negate the reason for being here? If it was that easy, I don't know. It pisses me off, to be fair. But then that the reason why it happens
I
to test
think,
you all the time.
yeah, I mean, I think the problem I have is for some reason I feel compelled to tell the world about these aliens. I don't want to because I'm aware of how it sounds, right? And but the annoying thing is, whilst aliens is extreme, I know it's extreme. Don't get me wrong, but it's the same principle. If it because if I was saying if I told you this is a made up story, but if I told you my wife, who's a nurse, goes to the hospital and one of the doctors, for no reason, just kind of dashed around the back of a patient and then he fainted. And then he was able to catch the patient on the way down, stop him smashing his head open on the floor, right? You'd go, oh, wow, like what fantastic intuition, right? And if you said, oh, I just knew, like I just felt it in my gut, I just like felt like someone was telling me to go and stand behind him so he didn't bang his head, people would be like, oh, wow, that's cool. But because aliens is so extreme, it just sounds it sounds ridiculous, right? But the principle is still the same. Like if you were a fireman and you're in a building and then all of a sudden you were just overwhelmed with everyone needs to leave right now and you start shoving your colleagues out through the door and then just as the last person gets out the building collapses, you'd be like, okay, wow, I don't know how I knew, but I was just it felt like guidance from whatever. It was an intuition, it is instinct. Again, people go, oh, that's amazing, like well done. You didn't get crushed by a building. But for some reason, instead of catching a fainting patient or seeing a building collapse before it happens, for some reason I've been just bombarded with this idea that like there is going to be a massive, massive shift and there is going to be a total change in the way that humans think and see and perceive. And for some reason, even when I try not to think about it, I still find ways of I just get nudged. It almost feels like I'm being nudged. It's like, hey, Camel, don't be a pussy, right? Don't be a coward, right? Go and go and make the tweet. Go and speak about this with someone. And it really sucks because I really don't want anything to do with it, to be honest with you. But it's just how I feel. And like I said, if it wasn't so extreme, it probably wouldn't be a bit that big of a deal. Um,
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's really interesting because I want to pursue this. But flipping back to your examples, I don't know how real it is because I don't really watch the news. But my wife was telling me about did you know the airplane crash in India?
is this the one that disappeared,
No, no.
or was this a recent
I
thing?
think the very recent, a couple of
Oh
weeks
no,
ago, I
no, I
think
don't know about that. No, no, no.
plane took off. Obviously, there was a problem. I haven't really followed the analysis. It's been all over my YouTube feed, people diagnosing whatever. Plane took off. There was a problem, and it crashed.
Okay,
One guy survived.
okay.
Everyone else died. Then my wife was saying, I don't know how true this is, but if it is true, that he made a decision to swap his seat before it took off,
Wow. Okay.
and that saved him.
So there you go. And does that make him schizophrenic? No. But when Camel says, that's exactly how I feel, I can't explain it. I don't know why. I wish it wasn't that way. And I know it sounds crazy,
He
but
walked
I think
away.
it's I think it's the same principle. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense until you start to maybe entertain that this is some kind of spiritual construct and there is perhaps a power or an ability people can tap into. But yeah, yeah, exactly that, right? Crazy.
It's
Makes no sense.
bizarre.
Makes no sense. does it?
Yeah,
None
hear it all
whatsoever.
the time. No,
But you do hear, that's what I mean. That's exactly my point. You do hear this kind of stuff all the time. I think everyone probably has some kind of story about when they did
yeah,
something like that and it
yeah.
saved them, which is weird. Super weird.
It is bizarre. Why does this happen, dude? I mean, why are you getting this deep, passionate, intuitional feeling that you need to be able to talk openly and freely about how you feel about the possibility of something happening? We'll address the aliens bit separately. But do you ever sit there and do you do you analyze or get over analytical of why you are feeling these things, or do you just or does it frustrate the pants off for you and you think, oh, for God's sake, man, please, like I experienced on that Sunday?
To be honest, for the most part, I think this is really cool. I think it's really, it's only the aliens that for me is inconvenient, right? Like I've got very, very similar stories to making a last minute judgment call, not getting in a car or taking an exit and whatever. I know people from our local church fairly recently were telling us a story that when they were heading out on the motorway to go somewhere, I don't know where, and she said she just couldn't get it out of her head. RTA, RTA, RTA. She's like, "What the f is this?" Right? What's And then she realized it's road traffic accident, right? And so then she freaks out. She pulls over, and she's like freaking out, and her husband's trying to calm her down. And then, like literally, whilst they're in the service station, there's like a 3 or 4 car crash or whatever that happens right next to them. And then she's freaking out even more, understandably so. But for some reason, she was just given that as like this is going to happen. Like you better react to it somehow. Um, and I think that's really cool. I'm like good. Like I'm glad that that made you pull over. Like I don't know why. I can't explain it. But it's cool that you had that experience, and it's cool that you were able to, thank God for that. Um, and still be here, right? Weird, so super weird, but yeah, so that kind of thing I think is really cool. I also think early on in the early days of my channel, I was able to predict a lot of things like rioting
Yes,
and
I remember. Yeah,
like knife crime increasing and all that kind of thing was pretty much the same deal.
yeah,
It was like I felt like I was being messaged, and then the more I kind of opened my eyes, the more information would find its way to me. And instead of it just feel like the algorithm was giving me stuff to hold my attention, it often felt like it had a more emotional connection. So I'd be like, oh, it feels like I'm supposed to watch this video. And then I would
yeah,
watch it and I'd be like, oh wow, like it's kind of pointing me in the same direction. I can't really describe it, but I've always just tried to be like, well, I don't argue with the chairman, right? If he wants to if he wants to push me in one direction, like who am I, right? I'll just I like to go with it. That's how I like to try to operate from a place of openness and oneness as much as possible. And then yeah, that was all fine. It was all happy days, and business opportunities have found me, and all sorts of like weird and wonderful stuff. And I never really had a problem with any of it up until suddenly I was like, oh man, I have to tweet about aliens. And I'm like, and only then I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this. And I'm like, oh, I guess I got to, man.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and then I was that's what I said earlier on, then it didn't happen. And I was like, well, I'm really confused. Like, how did it not happen? Like every other time something like this has happened, it's worked out. And then, as I said, then I was like, oh, it was like, you idiot, like next Easter, not this Easter. It's like, oh, but now I got to go through all this all over again for
yeah,
whatever reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but yeah, it's weird. It's super weird.
yeah. Do you think that possibly there's? Oh, okay. I'm going to take this really far out now. So, audience, if you're watching, you need quite a bit of an imagination. So let's go. let's try and analyze that. So you meant in this day and age, you mentioned aliens, then it's considered as wow, either a some sort of wonderful sci-fi thing, entertainment, or in any way, shape, or form, or you're just a wacko, because most people don't believe in it. So, do you do you think that when you get that sort of intuitive feeling, that you have then got to be in competition with how am I going to be judged with your own personal emotion living as a human being on this planet against the morality of do I fully entrust the information that I'm receiving to put that judgment to one side and then just put it out there? How does that sort of affect you?
Well,
Does that make sense?
yeah, I don't really know because my family know I'm a bit wacko anyway, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think people online know I'm a bit wacko as well. But for me, it's like,
No more.
yeah. uh, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's just some things I feel compelled to do,
Yeah.
um, and some things I don't feel compelled to do. And the funniest thing that I experience about this is if, for example, I feel compelled to do something and I try not to, it always seems to find a way of being like, hey, Camel, here's that little nudge you need. Like, stop messing around. Like, we were being serious about this. Like, that you're not getting away from this. Um, it's just like the weirdest. And I know, even as I say it, I can't even really say it without grinning because I just know I sound like a schizophrenic. I know I do. But it's just how I feel, man. And for the most part, it works. Like I say, if it's not extreme, it doesn't really matter. Um, but it just feels. And the other thing I kind of deeply believe about this is that I'm probably not the only one. I really don't believe I am the only one. I think there's probably a whole heap of people that feel the same as me,
Yeah.
but maybe they don't have a platform. So if they say it, no one knows, or maybe they don't say it at all for whatever reason. But I think we're all kind of connected, and that's the other weird thing about it. It's almost like the more I think about this, the more, like I said earlier, the information finds me. Like one of the biggest problems I had with aliens for a long time, I was like, aliens are bullshit, man. That's bullshit. Like I don't believe in it at all. Mostly because I had a real problem with the whole idea that they would be flying around through space.
Yeah.
That was what like really got to me. I was like, I just don't believe they're outside of our solar system and this, that. Like I don't know, something about that just didn't sit right with me. And then kind of then as I started to get this kind of intuition towards this kind of like enlightenment or a change in the way that we perceive things and all this kind of thing, then I started to stumble into more and more information about underground, those DOMs, deep underground military bases. And you see it, I was like, that's where all that debt for the US is going, by the way. I'm sure of it. That's where all those missing trillions are. I'm sure they just go to building these underground tunnels and networks and whatever. And then you go like, what are they all for, right? And then anyway, over time, I see more and more and more compelling information thrown my way, which I don't believe to be by pure. Some people will write this off as like, wow, if you watch one alien video or one about the algorithm will show you more. But like I said earlier, some of these videos have like a much deeper kind of oneness and an emotional connection. I feel like I'm meant to watch it almost, or when I'm watching it, I react differently to when I'm just watching something random. And yeah, just little by little, it felt like I was drip fed this information. Like that's what the underground thing is all about. That's where all the missing trillions go. It's like some weird underground network, and they've probably been here for a long time. And it just feels to me like we're almost ready. We're almost ready for them to pop out and be like, okay, here's the deal. And again, I could be wrong, like for sure. I kind of, in a way, hope I am wrong. I really do. I'd like to be like, okay, I'm wrong. Like I'm burying this and never coming back there. Because I think if I am right, the world's going to be extremely different. I think most people are probably not going to be able to handle it. I mean, you think about what a shock to the system it would be if it turned out that aliens popped out from underground, right? That would be, I don't think a lot of people would cope with that very well. So
Okay.
I'm not really wishing for that to happen.
Yep.
But it just feels like it just feels very much to me like it might do, you know?
Yeah. I, I don't know. I'm going to broaden this. You say feel a lot,
Hmm.
and I'm a great believer in connecting with the word feel, whatever that means, because now we're starting to get into the realms of it's beyond the words.
Yep.
It becomes more of a feeling. And that feeling can somehow, that energy, I don't want to call it energy of some description, has a way of communicating through emotional feeling. So, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. It's the feeling that has the vibration, right?
Yeah,
It's like we're all just kind of like energy and light, and it's the feeling that shapes a different frequency, and then that frequency goes out
yeah.
and ultimately is probably returned as well.
So, if there was a possibility of a frequency change within the day to day, day to day, I want to call it day to day living of how we live our lives. If there was something like you've just explained,
Are
which
you talking about on a planetary level here?
on a
Like a, yeah,
planetary level, yeah,
for the whole world, yeah.
like what you explained, all this money being spent on whatever,
Yeah.
because that's a physical thing, isn't it? That we want to relate to. We
Yeah.
want to see the tunnels. We want to see the domes. We want to, and then we can confirm it in our own minds. Like when I look out the window and I can see a car, it's confirmation, isn't it, from a physical sense?
Yeah.
But if that was going on and we are in touch, or some of us are in touch more than others, which explains all the different things that sometimes happen, then if that frequency was to change because of, I don't know how to explain this with words, because of outside influence that's bringing a different frequency in on board,
Yeah.
if you're feeling it, it's then the challenge is to like, oh, what's that? And it's not going away, and I can't express it somehow, and it keeps reoccurring. But this feels right when I actually start to think and talk about certain things. The frequency and the feeling seems to resonate in a different way than the bullshit that we can talk about football or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
using football as an example.
Cool. Yeah.
It feels different, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It feels deep and different, and it's just like I can't just I can't just talk about this sort of thing and just go nah, because at some point I know at the right time I can sit there and just feel the frequency of that thought process, and it feels different to just the normal run of the mill. How did West Ham get on last night? That sort of conversation.
Yeah.
So, do you agree with that as a sort of kind of explanation of what you're trying to say?
What that something externally could be influencing our
Yeah,
planetary vibration.
yeah.
Yeah, I think,
And you happen to be tuned in somehow, and I do probably in my way, and probably lots of people can feel it, but they can't explain it in a physical context, or they're not
yeah,
comfortable with it.
yeah. I don't know if I would say that it's an external force necessarily, or whether it's just the current resonance that we're picking up on. Like it probably, as far as my understanding goes from like the occult realm, our collective consciousness is what impacts our experience here. So the occult way of looking at this is one of the reasons that they want to keep people in a fear state and manipulated and low vibration and fighting over left versus right or up versus down or black versus white or women versus men, whatever, is because all the time we're doing that, we're distracted and angry and low vibration. And if the planet in aggregate is low vibration, then it tends towards slavery, tends towards not having the maturity to progress to the next level. Whereas if you allow everyone to have this higher level knowledge and to focus on being high vibration all the time, then society in aggregate, the planet in aggregate, tends towards freedom and leveling up. And so, with that said, I think that humanity has kind of almost failed to get along and to be high vibration. And I think in aggregate, they're too busy arguing over dumb stuff that doesn't matter, that keeps us divided, because that's what we're guided to do: be divided and fight with each other about stuff that really isn't important and is neither here nor there. And I think what this does is drag the overall frequency down, which then means we tend towards that fire in the madhouse. Terence McKenna, he said, like, as a species departs for the stars, it gets more and more chaotic and more weird. And the weirder it gets, the more people start to notice how weird it's getting, until it gets so weird that they are forced to talk about how weird it's getting. And that's kind of what I think is happening. I think we've reached the fire in the madhouse stage, and it's now gotten so weird that more people than ever are talking about how weird it is, right? More people than ever are like, something's not right, and like, what's all this stuff going on? And there's like islands with shady stuff going on with these like high up people, right? And there's like the baby oil guy. Like, there's just all this like randomness. There's like the proliferation of these kind of weird adult websites, and like the normalization of all this kind of craziness, and like people firing missiles at each other all the time, and the news is all fake, and there's so much chaos here that it's making everyone be forced to kind of wake up. And it kind of, I think, was triggered by that whole pandemic era. It's like a lot of people kind of started to question reality as they've known it. Like the homeostasis, the maintenance of a constant internal environment, was destroyed during the pandemic, right? People
100%.
suddenly people suddenly realized the fragility of society. They say they people suddenly became aware that, like, oh, this thing is not organic. Like, it's totally top down controlled, orchestrated. It's built, and they can just pull the plug on it, and then we're all on our own, right? They kind of signaled that to the world, which I think forced a lot of people to start looking for answers. And I think, like I said, we've reached that kind of fire in the madhouse stage where it's gotten so weird we have to talk about it now. And I just think part of that is, I mean, look, we're either tending towards total chaos and extinction, right? Or something has to happen to kind of show us where we've been going wrong and increase that vibration, right? And allow us to progress, because we're actually trending towards net negativity here. Birth rates are declining. People are arguing over dumb stuff all the time. Like, there's a huge wealth divide in the planet. And I'm not just talking about, in England or in America, where you've got some billionaires and some homeless people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how poverty is different depending on where you are in the world, right? The truth is, as bad as it is to experience poverty in the UK or America, that's a much higher standard of living compared to poverty in some countries that don't even have food and water and shelter, and they have nothing. They literally have nothing, right? So they're like, this is what I'm talking about. It's like, it's super, super weird. And I think we need to something needs to change, and it almost feels like that change is coming. That's kind of like the message that I am getting. Like, something big is gonna have to occur for this shift to happen. And that's kind of what makes me think that there's nothing really bigger than higher dimensional entities popping out of the middle of the planet and being like, by the way, here's where you've been going wrong, you fools. You've made us come up here and show you. And I could be, I hope I'm wrong about that, but it just feels like something like that is coming.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. and you've took that conversation. There's so many things you've just said in all of that, and it's just like, yeah,
I have a couple of rums and I just go west.
oh, dude, I just like I just poured a massive glass of whiskey out. It's just sending me like, dude, while I can still think about it,
Yeah.
that totally makes I my feeling is what happened in 2021. I think is underestimated and will be a massive turning point later on down the line where a lot of people will look back in history if we're still doing the same things that we're doing and go, oh my God, what a turning point that was. So I totally concur with what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's
That
like
was a big wake up call.
it really was. It really was
Yeah,
because,
100%.
and from at least from my perspective, I don't know if you share this perspective, but it forced a bunch of people that never really thought about anything other than what you call the hamster wheel, right? Like wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed,
Yeah, yeah,
repeat until the weekend, and then
yeah,
maybe watch the football on Saturday and Sunday or whatever.
yeah.
There was many people that were living like that, and I think then we got the pandemic and suddenly they realized like, oh, like what's
Shit.
going on here? Yeah, let
Yeah,
me look around, let me
yeah.
figure this out, I've got questions now for the first time ever. It's almost like we needed that shock to the system for a lot of people to start saying what is actually happening here, and what are the implications for that. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that was a massive pivotal point,
Enormous. It's absolutely
the biggest
enormous.
since 9/11, I would argue.
Bigger than that, I believe.
Bigger, yeah, I said, sorry, I said the biggest. Oh yeah, biggest, like I meant
Like the
the most
shock thing,
significant.
the
The
shock
last
thing.
time, yeah, the last
Yeah,
time an event was that significant for
yeah,
shifting, I think, was 9/11.
yeah,
Because that's when we went from, you could just walk on any plane with a gun and no
yeah.
one checked your bags and anything. Then we went to this, like, that was like the dawn of censorship and giving up your freedom, right? That was like
Good point, that actually. I haven't thought
all,
that deeply out there about that
that's what I
situation.
believe the big turning point was about 9/11. It's because
Yeah, good
once
point.
once that happened, then it became like, oh, now everyone gets checked, everyone gets x-rayed, and it was all framed under the guise of it's for your safety to make sure there's no guns or knives on the plane or whatever. But the reality is that, from my perspective at least, was the onset of surveillance, cameras, monitoring, checks, all that kind of thing. And then, like I said, I think that was a real turning point. And then we got to the pandemic, and that was an even bigger, I would say, orders of magnitude bigger.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's yeah. That thank you for that because I hadn't thought about it in that way. It was almost like a prelude to a global situation, but not a lockdown global situation. It
Yeah.
was bad enough to put restriction on, but not bad enough to make everyone realize those restrictions are, well, you're not coming out your rabbit hutch. I haven't looked at it like that. That's a really good observation. Really good observation. 9/11, yeah, 10 years, isn't it? 10 years difference.
Yeah.
And then we get the 2020, 2021 situation, which was, okay, you're not allowed out your rabbit hutch. And then that forces people to think, doesn't it? Because all of a sudden now we're off the hamster wheel. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having a cigarette, but I am, yeah.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. Yeah, that then forces us off the hamster wheel. And then if we're forced off the hamster wheel, then all we've got is our own thought processes to actually now sit there and think, what can I do? It's, oh, well, what am I going to do? And then slowly that's, back to where we are today, which has never been the same, I don't believe, at all. Going back,
Did you? I was going to say just before you check, just
sorry,
before you
come on.
move on. Did
Yeah,
you did you observe also the 9/11 thing was like? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I say this with all due respect. You're a little bit older than I am, so I'm curious to know if you remember or if you observed this or whatever. That to me seemed like, at least in my lifetime, the onset of using a threat as um, as a scapegoat for bringing in control. So it was like, we need to protect you from the threat of terrorism. And so to help us keep you safe, we need to take freedom from you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you really opened my. I've never looked at 9/11 other than just a possible conspiracy theory. I've never looked at it far beyond that. The day 9/11 happened, we just landed in Catalonia, I think. So we actually we flew that morning, landed in Catalonia, and I remember going to get a drink from the bar and a pool, and everyone watching the TV and seeing all these pictures of a plane.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, what's going on? But I was on holiday, and we enjoyed our 2 weeks in Catalonia. It was so like blasé. I didn't think too much of it, but until we come home, and then it was. I don't think everybody. I mean, fortunate enough, we there was stricter rules coming back through the airport, but because it was quite fresh still, it wasn't that strict. And then obviously, what you're saying is totally real, and I hadn't thought about that at all. Yeah, yeah, what you're saying is that's definitely makes sense. It's that okay? Yeah, this has happened. We can protect you. The state can protect you by putting these, but you've got to give up something, and then 10 years later, it's taken to a complete extreme. But I think that's backfired on that a little bit
Yeah, I
because
agree.
I think they underestimated that people have still got a mind and still can think, and then if you give people time, then you've got to be damn good because you're being scrutinized left, right, and center.
Yeah.
You've got to be very good at what you do, and I think that was a bit of a maybe a bit of a cock up. It was too much too soon, maybe. I don't know.
What, the
That's my
pandemic, you mean? They
just the
overplayed their hand.
control, the whole control thing,
Yeah,
the whole
I think
manipulation thing, the whole listen, we can control you, we will look after you, but hey, we got caught out having parties when we shouldn't have. But that I don't know. It's so difficult nowadays to think is that contrived or not or what.
I definitely think they overplayed their hand. I think
Yeah,
you know that
definitely.
silly analogy of boiling the frogs?
Yeah,
It's almost like they turned the heat up too quick. And I think if they went a little bit slower, then
yeah,
they might have gotten away with it, to be fair.
100% would have done.
I just think they were a little bit rushed for whatever reason.
Yep.
And now I kind of want to say maybe it's because they knew some kind of event was coming and maybe they felt pressured. Maybe it was an internal war between like the two sides of the elite or whatever you want to call it. Maybe it was that. I don't know. Maybe they just really thought that maybe it was like a power hungry thing. And they were like, yeah, we've got total world domination. We do whatever we want. And maybe they just underestimated the human spirit and its desire for freedom and to fight back.
Very underestimated.
Yeah.
I honestly, yeah, honestly a big believer in do not underestimate the power of the human being.
Yeah. Humans will not stay in cages.
No,
Through all of history, people have tried to lock humans in cages and
yep.
and they have always revolted. They've always fought
Found a
back.
way, found a way, and there's generations that have sacrificed that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe yeah, it's weird. Oh my god, I really want to take the cut, but I don't want to get away from the aliens bit because I've got a really cool question to ask you,
Yeah.
and that would be, I get it, I get the process of what you're saying about aliens. Another event that maybe could shift people's thought processes, but why? Well, what do you expect that process to be? In a positive way or a negative way? Is there a possibility we've got conflict in even if we can be in conflict at a human level on the planet Earth? Is there a possibility of at an alien level? I hate calling it alien because they're just another. It's so like weird calling it that, isn't it? But we'll call it alien. An alien level conflict, the same as what we conflict at with power struggles and bits and pieces. How do you see that playing out? Or
I don't know.
what's your gut feeling? Why is your next why are you feeling that next Easter? It's irrelevant whether it's this Easter, next Easter, the Easter after, or the Easter after that, or any other day. Da 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 da. What is that core feeling? Why is it linked to having to be around an alien type experience? And what would that outcome look like to you?
I mean, first,
Sorry, there's a lot
fir-
to unwrap there, but
first, I want to say the aliens is one idea. That's my base case, if you like. But I know there's some people that say it might be the second coming of Christ. There's some people that say it'll be a cataclysm that will, some major. I know some people subscribe to this like pole shift idea, which I'm not really into, to be honest. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
no.
I'm not super qualified to talk about this, but it's essentially that there's like the magnetic poles of the Earth and they flip 180 degrees, and then it causes like a whole heap of destruction and flooding and whatever else. I know Elon Musk has talked about that quite a lot, that he thinks we're overdue a pole flip and that there'll be this big cataclysm or whatever else. So, but based on like, I try to operate from a place of openness, and I kind of operate from a place of like, okay, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, like, give me what I need to know, and I'll just kind of run with it. And from everything
What does
I've
that look?
seen,
What does that actually look like when you say, "Give me what I need to know"? What if you really want to
sometimes
just
that is
open yourself to that? What does that mean
sometimes
to
that
you?
that is sometimes that is literally as simple as me praying for knowledge or praying for guidance. And other times it comes from a more kind of intuitive place. Um, I just very much believe that there are forces that can nudge us in the right direction if you're open to it. And you know that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher becomes available. I
Yeah,
feel
big
like
time.
that's
Yeah,
absolutely true. I feel like if you actually have a hunger for knowledge, for learning, and it comes from a genuine place. Like, I'm not trying to monetize this whole idea of aliens or
no, no,
create a bunch of content trying to warn people they're coming so I can say I told you so after the fact, because I actually
yeah,
think there's zero to gain from this. That's the
exactly.
horrible part of it. Because if I'm right, let's say hypothetically I am right. This is probably not going to go down well. I think a lot of people would struggle with the idea. I think it would kind of probably cause a lot of problem for a lot of different types of organized religion. I think a lot of people just would really have kind of mental breakdowns about the idea that perhaps they've been here all along and the government's been hiding them on underground. I mean, I don't know if any of this is true, right? But
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, if you entertain the idea, I think a lot of people would probably struggle with that. So I'm not going to be able to come back and be like, "Ha, told you so." I'm a savant. Give me the credit, right? I'm not going to be able to like. No one's. The truth is, if they actually pop out from under these deep underground military bases and try to tell us that we've been doing things wrong, or that that we're moving into a new era, or whatever it might be, people are going to be so distracted and caught up in that no one's going to care that Camel tweeted 12 months before saying, "Oh, I was on a dog walk and it hit me like a train." I think it might be Easter, right? But again, like I said, I operate from this place of openness and trusting the process and trusting God, whatever God is to you. I think God is many things to many people, but yeah, I try to operate from that place. And apart from the aliens, like I said, it's not actually that weird. I don't think it's like a law of attraction type thing. You think and feel positive, and stuff finds you. Do you know what? Let me give you a really weird example of this. Right.
please do. Yeah,
So I'm a big believer that have you ever seen these like it's like a manifestation technique and you write down a character description of your idealized self. So you say Carol Finance is, and then all the things that you envision to be like the maximum potential of your character, right?
Yeah.
He's this job, he earns this much money, he lives in this type of house, he has these cars, like whatever it is, right? This is what his wife is like, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's healthy, blah, blah. So you write down like an entire, and it seems like a very narcissistic thing to do, but you write down like a big character description and then you read it every once in a while. And it helps keep your mind focused on the goals. But the scary thing is, a lot of this stuff, a lot of this stuff comes true, and it's like scary to watch it happen, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I wrote one of these down years and years and years ago, and I wrote on it that I had straightened and whitened teeth, right? Now, as crazy as this might sound, I don't have particularly crooked teeth and they're not particularly yellow, right? So I didn't need to write this down at all. But I just was, when I was visualizing, I was like, what's the perfect camel? Well, the perfect camel would have straightened and whitened teeth. It was like a passing thing I wrote on this statement, right? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I write this down, I read it every once in a while, whatever. And the idea is that it gradually manifests, right? It comes to existence. Now, again, I don't really care about my teeth. They're not particularly bad, right? Years later, my wife gets a phone call from an unknown number, right? We're sat on the bed together. She gets a phone call. She looks at it and goes, that's weird. Like, who's that? She goes, I must be a scammer. But I noticed it had a semi local area code, right? It's like 2 towns over. So I'm like, well, it's local. Like, answer it. So she answers it and they go, hi, is this Mrs. Camel? She goes, yeah. She goes, hi, it's your dentist, right? She goes, oh, they go, is your husband there? Right? I'm not joking. She goes, yeah, he's sat right on the bed next to me. Why is that? She goes, can we speak to him? So, hello? Hi, this is your wife's dentist. We've got an opening. She's a private dentist, right? Now, I haven't applied to be on a private dentist. I haven't been to an NHS dentist in like 10 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
The phone call finds me. They're like, do you what we've got a slot? Do you want to come because your wife's on the program? So I'm like, sure, I'll come for a checkup, right? This is what I mean by the guidance. I don't have to do anything other than project to the universe or God or whatever you want to call it that this is the thing I'm working towards. This is what I want. So once I wrote it down, it became code that was uploaded to the simulation, for lack of a better term. And then I forget about it. I read it every once in a while. I don't think anything of it. And like I say, without doing anything, suddenly the dentist is calling my wife to be like, hey, bring your husband in. We need to do his teeth, right? Think about how weird that is. Actually, think about how weird that is. It was not like I had to submit an application to be on the waiting list. Like, this thing found me. And after it happened, I was like, oh, holy shit. I was like, Mrs. Campbell, you have to come and see this, right? Come here, wife. I show her the thing. I'm like, read this line right here. She's like, what in the actual fuck just happened, right? This is what I'm talking about in terms of like how mental it is, right? But again, that's objective proof, right? What are the chances? I think slim to none. But I also think if you operate from this openness and this positivity and this high vibration state, that things will come to you as need be. And you don't have to do much. You just have to pay attention, right? I could have easily been like, oh, no, thanks, hung up. But I didn't. I chose to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I haven't been to the dentist in like 10 years. Like, book me in, right? Off I
Yeah.
go. They whiten my teeth, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Done. So that's what I mean by operating with this place of openness. And so then to go back to the original question of what does that look like, that's exactly what it looks like. I submit my desires, I'm open to receive, and there it comes, right? In the most unexpected and unlikely of places, it shows up. And so going back to the whole aliens, what does that look like? It looks exactly the same. Like I didn't write down aliens will come on this bit of paper or anything like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? But I have a desire for understanding this world that we're in or this construct that we're passing through. I have a desire and an openness to genuinely try to learn about what's going on around me. And I believe in the same way that that dentist found me without me having to lift a finger or do anything other than write it down in my desires list, right? I believe it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. It just sounds much more schizo because we're talking about something way more out there than a dentist phoning you up. Does that make sense? Did I waffle? Did I pull it back in the right direction? Have I
You,
created more tangents?
you have. I've been writing things down.
I can see you writing. I'm like, oh no, I've made this worse. But
No, 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 you haven't. No, because I want to dig a little bit deeper on something with you. But I get what you're saying. I've got a question for you. It's a
okay.
really weird experience me and my wife experienced recently. How many times you been on holiday?
Um,
Would you say
do you mean do
roughly?
you mean
Don't
do you
go
mean
mad.
abroad? Do you mean abroad
Yeah,
or
where you've
like
flown.
on?
Sorry, where you've flown
Oh, only a handful, like five or six, maybe.
5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
So you've experienced that you go on holiday and you will go through that process of checking in at an airport,
Yep.
and you've met people that you've spoken to when you've gone through that check-in process. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. How many times have you met those people again after that process?
Zero, I think.
Zero, you think. What is the odds, do you think, because you like your numbers and bits and pieces, what is the odds of you in the future going somewhere and someone remembers checking you in when you went on holiday?
Slim to none, right?
Okay. Well, that happened
Thousands
to
of people a week they must see.
I mean, I haven't publicized this, but I went to Cobra's wedding.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing, dude. Absolutely amazing. What a privilege that I went there with my wife.
I saw the Ferrari, he looked wicked.
Yeah. But there's yeah, there's some stuff will come out of all of this going forward. But what a privilege to spend some time with someone experiencing a special time in their life. Me and my wife turned up. We don't know anybody. I've met Cobra twice. Yeah, in Berlin. I talked to him a hell of a lot. Yeah.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to his wedding.
Yeah.
And I've met his wife once and spent a beautiful piece of time with him. With her, sorry.
Mm.
God, I can't believe I said him. No, with her. Yeah. She doesn't look like a him, but went to their wedding. My wife hadn't met anybody, so we went to um, well, from my wife's point of view, complete strangers. Anyway, we was made the most welcome that I've experienced in a long time. So obviously it was meant to be, you know.
Hmm.
I didn't, my wife's very sort of, what's it called? She gets very uncomfortable. She doesn't know anybody.
Yep.
So, you know, that can be a little bit of a thing. Whereas I can, as you know, I can talk to anybody and be comfortable. Anyway, made extremely welcome. I met a couple, okay, and we was talking, and holidays come up, and the lady said to me, she said, "When did you go to Mauritius?" I said, "Last September." She said, "I thought you did." And I said, "Why is that?" And then I looked at her and I thought, "Shit, why do you look familiar?" And she said, "I checked you in."
What the?
Yeah. She said, "When you walked up from your car in a car park, I said to my partner, I know those two people. I checked, I'm sure, I mean, obviously she didn't bring that up. I'm sure I checked those people in when they went on holiday." And I, like, when you're talking, I was just thinking, and I said to my wife, I said, what's that chance of happening? Why is that? Why is that relevant? Why is that? And there's a lot of things going on. And I sat there and I thought, Jesus, this is meant to be. These decisions I'm making recently about what I'm doing going forward in my life and, what we're trying to do, then there's your confirmation. Because that is, like you said, pretty,
Well, I thought it would have been low probability. I thought you were going to say
yeah.
you went to the airport, she checked you in, then you went like the next year or something, and it was the
No,
same woman. The fact that Because that would have been like pretty crazy that she remembered you a year or two later, but still at the airport. But the fact she's at Cobra's wedding, it's like
Exactly. We
it's
wasn't like
almost
in Sainsbury's or Tesco's or someone like, oh, hello. I think I checked you at a fucking wedding. And it's Cobra who I get on very well with,
yeah.
and she is the partner of his most long term friend.
Wow.
Yeah, weird.
Super weird.
It is. It's crazy.
It speaks to that like that oneness of souls that are
Meant to meet at
somehow,
certain
yeah, meant
times.
to be like connected one way or another.
Mad,
Yeah,
dude.
super weird, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. But that brings me on to like the night you said, I've got something to tell you. And I said, yeah, when is it?
And you already knew. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For anyone watching, by the way, do you want to tell them that story?
Yeah, you can if you want to.
So I found out Mrs. Camel was pregnant and hadn't told anyone because it was very, very early. It was very early. And I don't think we'd even been for because we paid for a private scan at like
You
7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, you did.
And it wasn't even, it was before that. She'd literally peed on a stick and then was like, we're having a baby. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I hadn't told anyone because obviously I think most people know you don't tend
Yeah,
to
it's
mention it
early.
until
Yeah.
until until it's a little bit later on.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with Uncle Andy and I said, oh, by the way, I haven't told anyone, but I got something to tell you. And he went, yeah. I know. And I went, what do you mean you know? I haven't told you yet. And he went, I know. Congratulations. I was like, what the actual
It's weird, isn't it?
It's so weird, man. So weird. And I
It's,
couldn't stop laughing. I remember that. I still
I
remember
remember
that. I
that.
was
Yeah. You,
wetting myself
you,
laughing. I was like,
you
what on
freaked
earth
out,
is
didn't
this?
you?
Yeah, I did. Because
Totally
that's the
freaked
like,
out.
strangest thing ever.
Yeah. It's bizarre. But it's those confirmations, isn't it? And we have a tendency because like we're all involved on the frigging hamster wheel. I think it's the biggest deceptive thing that we go through in life, and it's mainly by it's orchestrated to be to be deceptive. But when you just pick yourself away from that and you just open yourself up to, oh yeah, that feels right. That feels right. That feels right. I'm in contact with that energy that feels more truthful than the hamster wheel energy. Yeah, it leaves you open to, yeah, I'm at Camel. I mean, like, even for the sake of meeting you, I just happened to meet you at the right time, followed you through. We there's what you're doing in your life has got nothing to do with what I'm doing in my life, but at a soul level, it just seems like it's really cool to know you.
Yeah, for sure. For
It's
sure.
weird.
I think if there is such a thing as past lives, we must have been pretty close or something. That's
It's
what I
just
always think.
weird, dude.
It
It's
makes
weird.
no sense.
And it's those things that I can't ignore going through life. Anyway, that's a side step, which hopefully people might find a bit interesting. I've got to go back to this alien thing because
Oh, leave me alone, Uncle.
no, I've got to do because it's to me. I want to dig into why, and I'm going to stop the recording there and put some ice in my drink. Otherwise, I'm going to get so pissed too
All
early.
right, yeah, I need to go and get some Coke because I'm going the same way as well.
I'm
So,
just going to pause that. We are back before I get too pissed. This is Camel's terrible, terrible influence he has on me. But guys, yeah, this is way out. This is what this channel's all about. It's having these way out there conversations, which to me, and probably Camel will confirm that, are the real proper conversations that we have that we don't really get that much of an opportunity to do so. So, dude, I'm going to go back to aliens, and I know it can be a little bit of a weird conversation. Why do you think, or what's coming to you, because you've said a couple of times you're open to receive what the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is to give you. Why is it aliens? What is the concept, without getting too het up on the construct of the word alien? What does that mean? What does it actually mean?
I don't know.
What do you feel that it means? What do you?
I mean, we were talking about openness, right?
Yeah,
Operating from a place of openness.
yeah,
And that works well for me. It always has worked well for me ever since I've tried to operate from that place. Like I said earlier, I told you the stories and we've had exchanges and whatever. And it seems like if you operate from a place of openness, then things kind of flow naturally. And so you're asking me why aliens,
yeah.
and I don't know is the answer.
No,
But when I maintain that same openness that I take or try to take to all of life, what I find is my openness to just it's non I try to be non-judgmental with it, right? I try to just be open to whatever is going to be shown to me, open to receive whatever it is, whether it's physical stuff or knowledge or intuition or whatever. And that openness has just led me to believe that that is the most probabilistic outcome. Now, I don't know exactly why, but, and again, I kind of mentioned it earlier, there could be, some people think it'll be a cataclysm, some people think it'll be other stuff. To me, it just seems like the more I operate from this place of openness, the more information wants to come to me and find me, and it all kind of hints towards that kind of alien idea. uh, and I just try to do what I always do, which is be non-judgmental of it, despite, as I said earlier, me not really wanting that to be the case, and I don't really have anything to gain, and I have a lot to lose, arguably. um,
okay,
although maybe not really. Like I suppose it doesn't really matter. It's just some camel on the internet's ideas, right? And it doesn't have to mean anything. But when I operate from this place of openness, that's just what my gut and everything else tells me. And the more kind of open I am to it, the more it seems to be reinforced via information, videos, stuff seems to find me. That's
okay,
extremely compelling to me, at least.
okay. So the idea of the paraphrase of the alien idea, is that, would you feel, based around that could be the only, or maybe the major, it's so difficult putting it into words, major thing that may, in the next stage of awakening for humanity, could that be the next stage for people to go, oh shit, who are these people? What are they all about? Oh my God, we are bigger than. Is that the next phase of humanity, expanding its horizons of thinking outside of the hamster wheel? Is that why you feel that aliens is
I was thinking, as you were speaking then, I was thinking, I'm not sure exactly what you said that made me think of it, but something you said reminded me of an experience this weekend I just had, right?
Yep,
I recorded a collab with a guy called Sunny,
yep,
and we, so that video will be out like Monday or Tuesday, maybe. Um, it was supposed to be an hour, and he was supposed to walk us through the yen carry trade unwind, and he ended up. It was a 2 hour stream, so we we overrun by an hour, and the last hour we were sharing experiences for spirituality, for health, for mental approach. Like we just got talking basically, and I just gelled with this guy. I was like, this guy's really cool, right? But it's really interesting because after I got done recording it, I was like, man, what a great guy. I can't wait to upload the video. I posted on Twitter to say, just got done recording a conversation with Sonny. I can't wait to share it with the world. And there was loads of people in the comments like, "Oh, f this guy, or f that guy, or I'm not going to watch it." And blah, blah. And I was thinking, you, these people don't seem to realize that they're coming from a position of weakness. Like,
Use a word, don't we?
yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but
Is that the shock and awe? Do you think that's the next stage of shock and awe to wake people up in this 9/11 2020 next stage? It's got to be something extraterrestrial, something paranormal, something out of this world to really sort of get that next out of the box thinking, oh my God, we need to sort ourselves out.
I mean,
Is that where it comes from?
let me maybe give you an example. When I say about maintaining openness, let me give you an example, right?
Yep.
So as an example, we can use CBDCs, right? Like if if you haven't done any research, then it's easy to hear people talking about the doom and gloom of CBDCs. And a lot of people's reaction to that is like, oh, that'll never work. Like it's all doom and gloom, whatever, blah, 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 whatever. In fact, here's a better example. This week in one of my videos, I pointed at how there's been an announcement that on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, they're going to be integrating the ability to trade stocks or whatever assets on the platform directly. And they were talking about how this is kind of like the next step towards the everything app, right? Which is this one app that does everything. Now, in my video, I made kind of like a passing comment. I said I'm pretty skeptical of this. It reminds me of WeChat from China, which, if anyone doesn't know, WeChat combines your banking app, your social credit score, your social media accounts, your government kind of documents like driving license and whatever else, and a bunch of other things. It's like everything in one app. But you can watch documentaries on this, and it's pretty dystopian and tyrannical, right? Like if you tweet something bad about the government or you do whatever, then they can take your social credit score away. That impacts your ability to transact because it's linked to your bank account, and there's like a bunch of people that can't eat out at certain restaurants or whatever, right? Very dystopian, very tyrannical. Now, when I was mentioning this update on the X app and the progress towards the Everything app, I said, look, I feel a bit weird about this because it reminds me of WeChat in China, right? And certain people just kind of like attacked that in the comment section. They were like, "Oh, this is you're a leftist extremist," and blah 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 blah, which I thought was hilarious because I genuinely don't know what the difference between the left and the right is. That's how little attention I pay to it. Like I couldn't tell you, I
I
couldn't
saw
tell you
I
which one is
saw that.
which. Yeah,
I saw that reply and I thought, camel, how can you call camel left or right?
I know. Like
Jesus, man.
I'm like the guy that's like I don't care, right? You know I don't care. You know me well enough to know I don't pay attention to any of it. It doesn't matter to me. Um, but the point I'm trying to make is some people just kind of see this kind of stuff and they get really aggravated and they get really irritated and whatever. I'm losing my train of thought here. The rum is kicking in.
That's fine.
Um, so you, oh, goodness sake. I
You, you, oh my God,
was
I'm
going to
losing
give you an
it.
example, wasn't I? I was going to give you an example. So,
Yes, he was talking about CBDCs and
and
yeah,
people, I think the point I'm trying to make is if you people operate in plain sight, that's the point I was trying to make, right?
good.
So
Yeah, that
if
makes
you
sense.
if you do your own research, if you just use your eyes to look around and do some digging, right?
Yeah,
This stuff is not hidden.
yeah,
It's right there for anyone to go and see, right? And so to call me a leftist extremist or whatever, and to be really mad by the fact
yeah,
I said this thing reminds me of WeChat in China,
yeah,
is silly. It's nonsense because anybody can go and look at WeChat. You can go and watch documentaries on YouTube about the social credit score system in China and blah blah blah, and you can quite clearly see that that's a real thing, right? People are actually living that way. So
yeah,
the
for
point I'm trying
sure.
to make here is if you're just open enough to kind of pay attention and look around you, then you can quite clearly see these kind of things are happening, right? Now, with that in mind, how does that tie into the aliens?
Yeah.
So you're asking me why I think aliens.
Why are
uh,
you using aliens as a narrative for that next stage of awakening? Probably that's maybe
Because by
my okay.
maintaining that same approach of being open and using my eyes to look at what is right there in front of us for anyone to go and see, just like you can go and see the WeChat, just like you can go and see the CBDC white papers, right? If you're open to having this knowledge, if you're open to going to look around for yourself and see what's there, right there in front of you for you to go and see, then it becomes pretty obvious, right, that this stuff is existing. This stuff is real, right? Like we can't really say CBDCs aren't real when we can go and pull a white paper up and read the white paper and see the tyranny, right? Same with the WeChat, same with everything app, whatever. Now, when I said about the aliens, right? You originally asked me, I think, why aliens? Why do I think that's the next evolution or whatever? Again, by me taking this exact same approach of being open and looking around me, I was looking at a video on YouTube where it was a guy that reviews Air Force and Space Force badges. You know, those kind of like badges they sew onto their uniforms or whatever. And honestly, like, this is not, if you just look at these, half of them have fucking aliens on them. I'm not talking about like we're not drawing. This is not a reach. I'm not saying like, oh, here's a badge and maybe that's an alien. No, no, no. I'm talking about one of them actually had a grey alien, the classic alien head on the badge. Right. Some of them had like many of them, in fact, had kind of references to magic. They had wizards in wizards' hats holding wands. And you think, what on earth does that have to do with these Air Force divisions and missions and Space Force and blah, blah, blah? Why are they all kind of drawing these parallels to magic and aliens? And some of them were a little bit more like, oh, maybe that's alien eyes, but you could argue it wasn't alien eyes, right? You could just, that was down to the person that's perceiving it. But like I said, some of these were actual alien heads stitched on the badge. And so, in the same way I look at the CBDCs or the WeChat and I go, well, I've read the white paper, like there it is for me to see. I took that same approach to some of this. I was like, so the idea was that these deep underground military bases are potentially housing extraterrestrials. And then you look at the divisions that are monitoring these underground bases in the air forces, and they literally have grey alien heads on the badges, right? At the same time, they've got these like wizards with wands and these weird texts around the outside that said things like miracles on demand. What does that mean? Miracles on demand, right? It kind of alludes to like something beyond our realm, right? And again, you can kind of say this is nothing if you want to, just like you can say I'm a leftist extremist for saying that the everything app is kind of similar to WeChat. But I just maintain that same approach of being open and using my eyes to look around me. And this is just one example. Like when I look at when I start to think to myself, maybe they're housing extraterrestrials in these underground bases, and then the badges associated with said underground bases and the Air Force department that's in charge of monitoring them has a grey alien head literally stitched onto the front of it. I start to put two and two together, and it doesn't seem that crazy to me. It almost seems like they're doing that thing they often do, which is hide it in plain sight. They're telling you what they're doing so they don't have to tank the negative karma, right? The karmic retribution is if I poison an apple and I tell you it's poisoned and you still eat it, that's on you.
Okay.
So that's kind of, it's a bunch of these little details that has led me to this conclusion. I've simply been observing the things that are happening around me. I've been open to receiving information, whether that's via YouTube or Twitter or whatever, or intuition. And I try to be, I try to just use my eyes to look around, right?
Yeah.
And in doing so, I've drawn the conclusion that that seems to be something that's happening.
Okay. Now I get that more. What I'm trying to allude to with you is at what point is that? Because you've got a complete different divide between intuition and physical knowledge
Yep.
and observation. in a physical way, which you've just so beautifully explained. And for me, I'm trying to understand and feel, where does that interact with your intuition? Because that intuition is coming from a realm of unphysical.
Yeah, and then it's confirmed in the physical, at least from my
Right.
perspective.
Okay.
So it's like I have this feeling that maybe this is a thing, and then I remain
Right.
open to it. And then whether it's the algorithm or the universe that sends me this information, I watch it. And sometimes I discard it. Sometimes I'm like, nah, like I don't believe you know those silly like tic-tac-toe UFO videos you see? Like that's not compelling enough for me, right? That I just look at that and I go, I don't care, right? But then other times I see things that reaffirm my intuition. So it starts almost on a spiritual level, and then knowledge in one way or another finds me, or information. Let's not call it knowledge, let's call it information, right?
Yeah.
Information finds me, and then it's up to me to use my discernment in the physical realm to decide whether or not this fits with my suspicions, my
Yeah.
intuitive spiritual
Yeah.
suspicions. And so it's really just like piecing together a puzzle.
Yeah. And at what stage, because I have this, I have the same sort of thing going on. What stage, but it's really nice to ask someone else. What, at what stage do you have to clarify, or is that even possible in this existence that we live on this plane, on this earth, in this lifetime, timeline? At what point does that become confirmed enough for you to then say, okay, I need to be an ambassador of this information and I need to put it out there regardless? That's a tough question.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm pushing the boundaries here,
I
but
know you are. Yeah, yeah, I know. I
yeah,
appreciate it. I mean, I would say like the first of all, I don't want to be an ambassador. Let's make that clear. That's
yeah,
not
that's all.
something I
That's
want.
again, that's just a word
No, no, I know
that
it
just
is. I
come
know.
to me, and then you know what? I'm not
No,
like
but
about
like I
words.
mean, just in case anyone's thinking like
Yeah,
I need, I feel like I'm not trying to say I'm chosen as a spokesperson or anything like that. Um, I guess like the only way I can explain it is to again say that I try to operate from this place of openness. And I try not to question too much because I think the more you start to impart questions and doubt, the more you kind of get in the way of this kind of stuff. So it almost feels like if you're going to ask for guidance, think about it like this, right? If you asked me for some advice, right, man to man, you say, oh, I don't know what to do about this, blah, 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 blah. I give you my advice and then you just disregard it entirely. I'd be like, why did you ask for my advice?
yeah.
Right? Like, why do you care? If you're just going to make your own mind up and do your own thing, then what does my opinion matter? Right? Now, I mean, that's slightly different to if I gave you bad advice or if you asked my opinion and you took it into consideration. But I'm sure we've all been there at some point when somebody's like, hey, what do I do about this? And you give them good advice and they know it's good advice, but they still just kind of act on emotion and impulse and do something wrong. Right? And I kind of think that's the same with this higher level guidance or intuition or spirituality, whatever you want to call it. I kind of feel like, for me at least, I'm asking for guidance and then I'm trying not to question it. It's like, again, it's just like, let's be open, right? It feels almost silly to be like, hey, man, imagine this. Imagine praying for a sign that God exists.
Which I
And then,
did last
and then you,
Sunday.
and then you get one and you go, nah, I don't, nah, coincidence, right? It's like, well, like, what more could you want? You prayed, you asked, you got what you asked for, and now you're going to just throw that away? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? Like, you have to have a certain level of openness and you have to relinquish control to a certain degree. If you're going to pray for guidance or pray for knowledge or pray for a sign or whatever it is, or if you're not going to pray because you don't believe in God, if you're just going to kind of, ask the universe or manifest, like, call it whatever you want. But that only really works if you're willing to say, okay, there's my sign. Say no more. I'm gonna go that way. And so like I said, it's I think it's a lot easier if it's not aliens, right? It's much easier if you're like, oh, do I pursue this new girl I've been dating? And you get a little sign, and you're like, okay, yeah. Like it's much easier to make that kind of decision. Like, oh, there's my sign. I should maybe take this girl a bit more seriously. I should maybe like commit to this girl. That's easy. But when it's like, can I have some knowledge? Can I have some sign? Yeah, here's a bunch of alien badges that are just overtly printed on government Air Force slogans, and they're telling you they're using magic by literally saying things like miracles on demand. I mean, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Eventually I just go, okay, fine. I asked, I answered. Like I asked, you answered. I mean, and fine. Like that's how I see it. So I try not to question it, and you know, I'm not a savant that can interpret this information perfectly. There's always going to be a degree of maybe I got that right, maybe I got that wrong, whatever. But really that's all it is. It's no I don't really see it as any different to, as we were saying earlier, like an intuition for a nurse to catch a falling patient before they faint or whatever else, or like taking that exit off the motorway so you avoid a car crash. I don't think it's much different. I just think it sounds more extreme because we're talking about something so drastically different to what we're used to.
Yeah, it's just it fascinates me, dude. It really does. And what fascinates me is the concept of using English language or whatever language, but we understand English language as a way of representing what we are feeling. And the problem with all of that is it can be interpreted as in in ways. And I think that's where it becomes a problem. And because you've mentioned the word alien, it sets off so many different things in so many different people's minds. And that's what I was curious in. Why did you choose the word alien? What does that mean? And that's what's really sort of made me really wonder where did that come from? Why is it this the word alien? Because that's a trigger of so much speculative emotional thought in many different people, and yet it's not the first time I heard you say it. That's what I wanted to. I was going to say this word probe. Probe.
Anal probe.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I wanted to say it a load of times, like probe into why you was feeling that, and
Well, I
what it
mean,
actually
is it
meant. It's
what
interesting.
what other word is there? You could use extraterrestrial, you could say NHI, right? Non-human intelligence. You
Mm.
could say you could some people think these are interdimensional beings, maybe. Um,
I'm still slight.
Alien for me doesn't carry any weight. It's merely like a word. In the same way that like cat or dog doesn't carry any weight. It's just a cat is a cat and a dog is a dog. That's the word. We could call it feline and canine if you wanted, but we use the words dog and cat because that's our English language, right? So for me, alien is no it carries no more weight than dog or cat or cow or sheep, right? It's just a description for something that is not human.
Yeah, but unfortunately, when we say words, then everyone will interpret those words. Um, yes, it's fucking interesting. I find it really interesting. And why would I, why would you associate underground bunkers? I mean, what's your feelings on that? Why are you using that terminology? As though is it truly? Am I missing the point here? Is it truly that it's for humanity? We really want to be pushed to another level of shock. That oh shit, it isn't just about us. To then make us recognise we need to move on in whatever way, shape, or form.
I don't know. My best guess is that they've literally been here forever, for a long,
Okay.
long time.
See,
Like, I don't,
you keep making me want to ask you more questions by saying these things.
I mean, it's my best guess. I don't know. I don't know. But it's my best guess that they have been here for a long time. And that there's more people that know about this than probably is let on. That's also my best guess or my speculation. And I think as well, based on again my like openness to kind of look at things and see what's happening around me, I think the whole look up in the air at the UFOs and the flying saucers stuff, I think that's a distraction. I think they want us to look up because that stops us looking down, where all that money keeps getting funneled off and all those missing trillions keep going. When it's really hard to see any kind of compelling UFO type, or what do they call it now? UAP, unidentified aerial, whatever
UAP,
phenomena,
yeah.
right?
Yes, yeah.
Like, how is it that everyone's walking around with a 4K camera in their pocket, but we never got a single high res shot of one of these things? Like, it just doesn't, this stuff just annoys me. I'm like, bro, like, it doesn't mean anything. But what does mean something, to me at least, is tangible. Like, these underground military bases are miles deep and miles long, and they're in every city of the world, or like every major country, let's say at least. Huge networks. And so you go, well, why? Why? Right? And it just makes me think it's entirely possible that they want everyone looking up at the sky, looking at orbs and some other BS and low resolution UFOs or whatever. Meanwhile, like they're all just under there chilling. They have probably been there since like the 1800s or who knows. It just seems like it wouldn't be that crazy to me. As crazy as that sounds. And again, then you start to look, and the more you look and the more you're kind of open to this, the more it seems like that's entirely one possibility. Again, is it? Is that the real case? I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. But
Oh,
but
that's
it
what I'm
just
trying.
wouldn't surprise me. That's my point. It wouldn't surprise me.
Cool. I'm with you with that.
And
100%.
if
Yeah.
if my intuition is right, they've been kind of planning to do whatever it is they're going to do next year. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, or I don't know. I don't even know if they're going to show up. But if my intuition is right, this has been like a very, very long process. It's been going on for a long time, and they're finally going to pop up and be like, by the way, we've been here the whole time. and and I guess we'll see how that pans out. Maybe I'm flat wrong. Maybe it will be net negative, and most people will just not be able to cope with it. Maybe they want to enslave a small portion of the. I've seen one theory that the whole New World Order is alien orchestrated, and it's not actually humans in control, but it's extraterrestrials. I don't know if I subscribe to that personally, but that's one idea that's out there. Or maybe they're going to pop up and function as the kind of return of the Messiah that we hear about in a lot of religious texts, right? Maybe that's what a lot of the religious texts were written about. Extraterrestrials that had seemingly magical powers because they were so far advanced, and people interpreted them as gods because they had no other way to frame their planetary mastery. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's none of these things. But to me, it just seems like, as crazy as it sounds, it doesn't seem that unreasonable. It seems like it could well be a thing. Um, the funny
Dude,
thing is, I actually don't care. That's like, believe it or not, I actually don't care. Because,
I said that's, dude, can I just stop you there
yeah,
before you,
please do. Yeah.
and please carry on. I won't be long. All the time you're talking, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't give a fuck, really.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, does it?
It's great conversation. It's great. It's great information. It's great entertainment. It's great. But that was so powerful what you said because I literally thought, fuck me, I don't give a shit really.
It doesn't matter. I think it would matter to. I would imagine a lot of people would be unable to deal with it
Yeah.
because a lot of people probably trust the government and think they've never been lied to, and the hamster wheel is going to keep turning and keep serving them, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I hope I'm right in this assessment. I don't think I'm going to be affected. I don't think my paradigm is going to be shattered if it turns out that my intuition is right and they've been down there the whole time. I don't think
Yeah.
like
Can
I don't
can
think that's going to blow my mind.
yeah, can I
Um,
just say the only thing that will affect that probably is from a personal point of view, oh, I can definitely relate to that. The problem becomes is the people that are around you that you love,
yeah,
whether they can accept it. And that's where conflict, that's the conflict. Because if you can accept radical change and radical whatever, it's probably as well as I do, and I'm presuming this, but I would say, looking down the Bitcoin thing and the finance and everything that we follow outside of all of this, 99% of the population just go with the flow, and they're quite naive to most things,
yeah,
you know. So the conflict won't be from what you. I could have a conversation with you, and I could meet up with you and go, yeah, whatever. It's what we expected. Yeah, and we'll just take on board what's being presented to us. It fits. It fits the possibilities of what we've been thinking about. But probably the people that we love and the people that are around us, that's the emotion you have to deal with.
yeah. I mean, something we haven't mentioned yet,
Go on,
but and that's
Pete.
the fake alien invasion. Have you heard about this?
No, dude.
So this is another conspiracy that the idea is that they would stage a fake alien. Well, they would stage an alien invasion, but it would actually be a fake kind of
Ah, right.
government military, you know, Independence Day essentially,
Yeah.
right? They would have like a flying saucer go over the White House and blow it up or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're under attack." And similarly to 9/11, going all the way back there, 9/11 united the entire country for the first time in a long, long time through common enemy, right? Like they had to unite together as America and put all the differences aside because there was this perceived terrorist threat against America. So through sharing a common threat, they were able to unite. And so the fake alien invasion idea is that we get a little later in the decade, they stage an alien invasion, and all the world has to pull together through common enemy or common threat and unite under one world government, one world order, one world taxation, one world money. Sounds kind of familiar, right? So maybe my intuition is slightly off and it's not real aliens. Maybe, in fact, it's a fake alien invasion to usher in a one world government, one world order, one world money, etc. Maybe it's that.
So
And
how
that fits with the CBDCs and stuff, right? You get like a everyone's on a UBI and a social credit score, and we all have our CBDCs that ultimately go into a basket backed by some kind of what do you call it? SDR, special draw rights, which is backed by gold and Bitcoin and a basket of other stuff. And then all of a sudden, everyone ultimately is under this one WeChat type deal, right? CBDC. Maybe that's what it is. And it's actually nothing to do with aliens and real extraterrestrials. Maybe the whole thing is a psyop, and that's where my intuition is slightly off. Maybe the whole thing is fake.
yeah, I I I yeah, you've just thrown me a curveball there. Because yeah, that's great. But the whole yeah, Well, I really want to dig into you though, dude, and what your intuition is. I don't want to move away from that because I think your intuition is extremely powerful. So it
Are you sure it's not just rum and crack? Like it could well be that, right?
okay. Well, I'm going to confess to the audience.
You like a bit of crack too?
No, I'm going to confess to the audience that what Camel just said is very true. Unfortunately, because I have built a relationship with Camel, then there's this isn't a one-off. This is a built-up relationship that hasn't been induced by this all the time. And as you've heard previously and earlier on, there's a certain connection between the two of us. So yeah, I'd like to say it was about the crack for sure, but that's just a crack. Um, no, dude, it's I don't know. I've really wanted to really dig into. I've really wanted to really bring out. Okay, I'm going to put my cards on the table. I really wanted to on this edition, especially as we haven't done a whiskey and rum for a while, was really pull out and not let you get away from your intuition too much, and not come up with other reasons. I really wanted to dig into you and what you really, really deeply feel because obviously we share the same passion, but you seem to be able to eloquently put it across better than I do, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
No, probably doesn't. No, no, it's. I see. I don't personally believe that last bit that you said is coming from true camel plays.
What the which bit are you talking about? Sorry.
The bit you was talking about where
Fake alien
it's
invasion.
fake. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. I think the fake thing is possibly the confusion and manipulation of mindset,
Okay.
where it just throws everybody into a state of like, oh, I don't know what to believe. Because if you really think about it, if you throw the whole populace, and that's another question I could bring up, because it's only the populace of what we were absorbing at the moment, which is a very small percentage of the normality of what's going on out there. But if you throw that populace and get that narrative going, then you can just hide whatever. You can really truly hide whatever, and you can make people second guess their intuition, which is why I don't want to let you get away from your real, true, deep feeling intuition.
Okay. Let me. Can I interject here with a couple of questions?
Of course, yeah.
Number
Yeah,
one.
that'd be nice.
Number one. Right. Do you believe, or do you think it's fair to say that a lot of, if not all of, what we see pushed via the mainstream media is deliberate? It's pushing a narrative, it's there by design, and it's kind of synced up across the mainstream platforms to push a narrative. Do you think that's a fair comment?
I think that's an extremely fair comment.
Okay.
Extremely. But I would add to that when you're embroiled into this whole setup, you do have a tendency to think that the whole world is in the same setup at the same time.
Yep.
And my, whether it's right or wrong, I still think that this setup here and the whole social media setup is still a very low percentage of the overall physical world out there
Okay.
in comparison.
So then my second question would be,
Yep,
based on all of that,
yep,
do you think it's also fair to say that over the past, I don't know how many years, let's say four, five, six,
yep.
somewhere in that time frame, there has been a proliferation of UFO, UAP, Space Force, disclosure type stuff pushed through the mainstream media. Do you think it's fair to say that maybe 10 years ago they hardly ever covered that stuff, and now even the mainstream media is pushing like, oh, here's a military fighter jet that detected a UAP, and oh, like Donald Trump is building a space force just in case, right? Do you think it's fair to say that we've observed a shift towards the mainstream media kind of pushing a an idea, at least let's call it an idea, the potential that there could be aliens out there, there could be UFOs, that kind of thing?
Wow, that's a really cool question, dude.
Because from my perspective, they have moved. You're frozen. Oh, you're unfrozen. Okay.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
from
Sorry.
from my perspective, nothing goes on the media without having some kind of purpose, and that purpose is generally to convince the masses of something. And also, from my perspective, in the past 5 years or so, plus or minus a bit, they seem to have been trying to convince people that, oh, here's a tic-tac-toe UAP that this fighter jet saw. Here's this, here's that, here's some disclosure. We're establishing a space force just in case we might ever need to go to war with aliens, right? Like, it just seems to me like they're kind of setting the scene. So I'd be curious to know, number one, do you observe that as well? And number two, do you think there's anything to that?
I love it when I get asked a question because and forgive me, audience, sometimes I always find it very effective if I pause and really have a deep think about the way I need to answer it, because I need to try and reflect around all the experiences that I could possibly put towards answering that question honestly. Okay, so I'm very fortunate to live a life with a lady who happens to be the love of my life, my wife, who is so intrinsically plugged into mainstream media. So I use her as a bit of a barometer
Yep.
to what she's talking about is what she's consuming. So from that perspective, and this is hypothetical, if I asked her that question, I would probably presume, she might surprise me, but I would probably presume that she would say, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Because she hasn't really consumed that idea.
Okay.
From my point of view, I've consumed it. The reason why I've consumed it is because I'm plugged into it, because I'm interested in it, because it falls into a narrative of interest more than anything. So I'm at conflict at how I can answer that question, but I can only answer it from my personal point of view. And that personal point of view is sort of quite biased along the aspect of the reason why I know about what you're saying and it's proliferant to me is because I'm consuming that fed algorithmic information via the mediums I'm using to consume entertainment online. And this is what I love about being married to my wife, because she's the total opposite and she brings that total opposite perspective. If I hadn't, or if I didn't talk to her about that, then she would just go, "What the hell are you talking about? I didn't even know that." So that makes it very difficult to answer that question. Really difficult, only from my personal point of view. Yeah, I've consumed the information. I've been fed that information, and it kind of makes sense to me. But my wife, on the other hand, that's the total opposite, which is probably 90% of the people out there, I would imagine. I can't talk for those people, but I can only talk for my wife. Yeah, she hasn't, she would probably turn and say, what are you talking about?
So you don't. Okay, that's it. That's interesting.
It is.
So you don't think they've been. I'm trying to word this in the most direct. Let me wait. Let me pause for a sec.
Dude, I'm going to pause it anyway because I need a wee.
All right, I'm going to forget my question. Recording in progress.
Recorded. And I must apologise to everybody. On Father's Day, I was given a white chocolate Toblerone. I just saw it in the fridge and I thought, oh, I need a triangle of that.
So, Uncle Andy, I got to ask you,
Yeah, go on, mate.
have you observed a drip feed of UFO type stuff in the mainstream media?
Mainstream.
Yeah.
Define mainstream, mate.
Like the BBC News, I don't know. I don't know. Just in general, right? In like the
Hmm.
newspapers, in on channels 1 to 5 in the UK. Have you noticed that every once in a while they bring up some UFOs, some tic-tac-toe type UAP stuff? Have you noticed them drip feeding that in?
Jesus Christ, man. That's an amazing question because I've just actually sat there and thought, when was the last time I watched BBC, BBC Two, ITV,
But do you see
Channel
clips of it
4?
online on Twitter or whatever?
Oh man, I'm really trying to wreck my. There's a possibility I may have. I'll be honest with you, dude. I probably over the last at least 3 years, yeah, probably at least 3 years, I haven't really entertained too much mainstream. This is sad, really. Maybe
It's
this
not.
means something that I might have been totally brainwashed by something else, making me think now. Yeah, I haven't really sort of got too involved with news. No, I can't answer that question, dude. Other than no, I haven't. Probably because I haven't paid much attention to it in that mainstream format that you're maybe implying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch any of that stuff either, but I see it mostly on Twitter. I see people clipping stuff on
Okay,
Twitter and being like, "Oh yeah, look, the BBC posted this," or
okay.
"This is doing the rounds in CNN," or whatever the American equivalent is. For me, at least, I've observed a drip feeding of UAP type stuff and Space Force type stuff, and it makes me wonder if they are attempting to condition the public to being open to something like that showing up.
It will kind of. Sorry, this is really rude, isn't it?
No, no, you crack on.
It's only a small piece left, but I absolutely love it. It will kind of make sense. My question is, and I'd love to question myself, why do I want to believe that they are doing it? What uh, the question I always ask myself is, what's the outcome of anybody doing anything? That's the thing that really sort of gets me going and gets me thinking. So why do you think? And this probably gets back to what I've been trying to sort of get out of your gut instinct about the whole alien thing. What could even if we want to speculate, and maybe we could spend the last bit of the time with this, but we haven't haven't moved off of aliens at all, have we?
No, not really.
But it's
You know,
fascinating.
one thing that's been, do you know one thing that's been plaguing me though? That alien behind you that's sat behind you
Hmm.
is a tall white, and they've got 6 toes, not five. But in that picture, it's only got 5 toes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been doing my head in this whole evening.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Will that please you? I have no
Fluorescent
idea,
living
mate. This
caps.
is an AI generated background, and I'm ultimately impressed that you've compared six toes to five.
Yeah, it just doesn't look right. It looks like a human foot, but that's a tall grey, so it should have six.
Okay. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole enough, have I?
No, there's nine alien races.
Oh, mate, go on. Off you go. No, I find this fascinating. My bullshit is bollocks.
There's the greys. They're like 3 to 4 feet tall. They're your standard aliens. Kind of similar head to that tall white there behind you.
Hold on. You said nine, yeah?
Yeah,
Why did you mention nine?
because there's nine.
Okay. And is
I don't make
not,
the rule.
yeah, that's cool. So does nine depict number nine is the lowest level and number one is the highest level?
Nah, nah, nah. There's just nine.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think. In the same way, there's like I don't know how many human races. A bunch.
Okay. So we've got nine alien.
According to my research,
Okay.
there's the greys. They're the little 3 to 4 feet tall ones. They're the ones with the standard, the standard grey alien head with the big eyes and that kind of similar shaped head that you got behind you. Then, in theory, there's the reptilians. They're much more like the ones you see from what's that film called with the sunglasses? You ever seen that film with the sunglasses?
Oh, God.
Oh, what is it called? Do you know the one I mean? It's a really old film.
The 80s.
And he puts the sunglasses on and it allows him to see through all the propaganda
I
and
know the one, mate.
um
Can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know the one, you mean.
anyway, then there's the Nordics. These are like tall, human like described as beautiful. Beautiful, tall. They always wear blue, apparently. Tall whites is what's behind you, but they've got 6 fingers and 6 toes. That's why that thing's been grinding at me. There's the mantis, apparently. The mantises are literally like praying mantises. Again, if you subscribe to that. The Anunnaki, which are like the ones that are likely associated with the building of Egypt. You've got the Syrians from the Syrian place. The Venetians from Venus. And then the other one is the Arc something, which are believed to have the highest spiritual powers and they're visitors.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a rabbit hole for you to go down.
Is that is that off the top of your head or are you reading that off a piece of paper?
No, 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 that's off the top of my head, but that's
Really?
off yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's a bunch of rabbit holes you can go down. I don't know how much I like subscribe to this stuff. I think it's fun to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Go on. Carry on.
I don't have nothing else to say really.
All right, okay. So there's nine species of aliens,
Allegedly. I'm not saying that as a matter of fact by any means.
allegedly. Dude,
And it's speculated that the Nordics, the reptilians, and the Greys are the ones that have a presence on the Earth, and the rest of them are just kind of like visitors. To be fair, though, I don't know where this information comes from. Like, I pull it up from various places on the internet. It's kind of like aggregated based on UFO sightings and what do you call it? Eyewitness encounters or whatever.
tell you what,
But how much weight can you put on that, really? You know what I
tell you
mean?
what, I tell you what, bedtime for your fucking son's going to be so cool.
It's not. I've got a whole heap of books here, right here on my desk, that I'm going to read in. And I think most people would pick children's books, but I'll grab a couple of these and I'll tell you what my son is going to get read because I believe that even though he won't be able to understand, it's subconscious programming that will later yield an iron mind, let's call it. So I've got one here, contrarian investment strategies, the psychological edge, right? I've got another one here.
What the fuck happened to Paddington?
Oh, no, 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 no. I got another one here, the Kabbalion, Hermetic philosophy.
Brilliant.
I've got another one here. What's this one called? Natural law in the spiritual world.
Wow, I really
That was
wanted
a
to
gift
talk
from my
about that.
wife. That was a
Yeah,
gift
that's
from my
cool.
wife. And the Kabbalion one was actually sent by a subscriber to the PO box, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Um, and wait, where's the other one gone? I've lost one. I feel like I've lost the coolest one. Actually, where is that book?
Wow. See, the universe don't want you to take it down that route.
No, it was I don't know where it is, but it's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius,
No,
which is
right,
who we
okay.
named our child after, by the way.
Sorry?
That's who we named our that's who we're gonna that's his name. His name's gonna be Aurelius, believe it or not.
Seriously?
Yeah, and we're gonna shorten it to Ori. So it's not as so he can choose to introduce himself as Aurelius or Ori. But yeah, he's
Really?
named after Marcus Aurelius. So my wife bought me for Father's Day, believe it or not, just gone, which I didn't even know really existed because I've never had a father.
No, you wouldn't. That,
Um,
you will do from now on.
but I got a Father's Day present just gone, and it was yeah, it was the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. So I'll read him that as well, which will be like
Oh,
the weirdest collection of books to read a newborn baby, but I'm gonna really enjoy it. I think I can imagine me and the baby and the dog cuddled up on the sofa reading these occult books. And hopefully that will be conducive to him being a good thinker when he's older.
will you please let me have some interaction with your son?
Yeah, what kind?
Just to keep him on the straight and narrow. I just say, this is just a refresher to keep you away from your dad for 5 minutes. I'm playing, dude. I'm actually playing. That Marcus Aurelius thing sounds like really interesting.
Yeah, we've already decided on the second child's name as well. The second child is going to be Atlas Aries because we're weird, man. I don't think people quite comprehend how weird we are.
I think we're getting a really good idea, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big believer in like again, it's like that signal into the universe, right? I think if you
Yeah,
name him something simple, then you're not really signaling that you have a desire for greatness. But I think if you give them a strong name, it signals to the universe and the chairman that we want big things for this, you know? That's the philosophy. So we'll see, I guess. We'll find out.
you're really opening up. I want to ask you so many things. That's right. Okay, can we wrap up the
And
alien thing?
something yeah, go on, go
Go
on.
on. No, no, no. Go on.
No, I was going to say something we noticed is like every child that's born recently is called like Frankie, Freddie.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, there's like 10 names. I forget the rest of them. Ted, Theo, Noah. There's like a
Really?
handful of these names, and we were like, we can already guess every name in the school because everyone we know has picked like one of these five names for their children. So we were
That's
like,
interesting.
we're going super outside the box.
I like it. I like that though.
I looked it up on the register as well. It'd be the only one in the country.
Really?
Yeah, the only Aurelius in the country.
Aurelius. After Marcus Aurelius.
It's
I d
nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a statement, dude.
It is, and that's the point. It's supposed to be a statement, and I intend to use it to signal to my creator that I'm taking this very seriously, and he is going to be more than average. That's what I intend to signal. And like I said, we can shorten it to Ori, right? Aury, fine. And then he can introduce himself as Ori, and people won't think it's super weird. But I imagine as he gets older, he may well embrace the full name.
Fuck me. Sorry.
Good to have the option, though, right?
Sorry, audience. I just, yeah. Wow. What an insight into your mind.
Yeah, my mind is weird.
It isn't though. It isn't, dude. Before,
Different.
yeah, yeah, no, it's not that different, dude. Don't forget, I've had the privilege of having some outside conversations of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You're as normal as anyone else. Whatever normal is, that's another word. Dude, I can't let you get away with you've. From my point of view, I need before I finish this alien subject that has gone on for almost
3 hours,
2.5 hours,
is it?
which is ridiculous. I still, in my own mind, haven't haven't really come to any conclusions of where Camel is getting this instinct of why you've related to next Easter being a alien manifestation to the world and what that means. So, is there any way that you could describe that in a few sentences? I'm obviously not asking you to be some sort of guru with this or prediction with this, but how you see that could play out and what its meaning would be.
No, like
What
I
what
said
are we
earlier,
supposed to be learning from this?
nothing.
Nothing. Do you mean to say I've sat
Nothing.
here for God knows how long
I
trying to
might be
analyze
flat
that?
wrong. This is just fun,
It's
man. We're just
irrelevant.
hanging out.
Yeah,
We're just hanging
that's what
out.
I mean. That's what I mean. This is just pure speculative, but I'm asking you to really dig deep and just give that, you know, give that you believe in it. What do you feel? And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
But
But what do you really feel that could mean? Because that's the important thing to maybe me talking to you. We happen to be recording it. Anyone else experience it can fucking take it for what it is.
well, I mean, we just like hanging out, I think.
Yeah.
First of all,
Yeah,
I think
100%. Yeah,
we've
love
been
it.
we've been even if it's not recorded, like obviously we speak on the phone and stuff, and we
Yeah.
practically do the same thing, right? We have a couple drinks, we hang out, we chill out,
Yeah.
we talk about like random things. Um, as I said earlier, like I know I get the sense you want me to be like, oh, here's exactly why I think this, but I don't know. I don't have the answers,
No.
unfortunately.
Right. Okay. I need to recorrect the way I said that. I would like to give you the opportunity, not my exact interpretation of what I want to hear from you. I would like you to give yourself the opportunity to put this out as a recording of how you feel, regardless of fucking everybody, just how you feel.
I feel like I'm floating through life, enjoying it for the most part, and at the same time, I although there's a lot of things I care about, the thing I care about the most is trying to suss out what this all means.
Yeah.
And my approach for trying to suss this out is, as I said earlier a million times, trying to be open to asking for guidance. And then as things show up, I try to be like, okay, fine, I'll go that way, right? I'm like, give me a nudge, and I get nudged in a direction, and I kind of go in that direction. And as I go in that direction, I then do some physical study. I watch YouTube videos, I read things online, whatever. I try to piece together a puzzle, and ultimately, eventually, I try to arrive at a conclusion after I think I've got enough puzzle pieces in place. And then I kind of just move on, right? I'm kind of like, well, this is what I think. That seems to be the most probabilistic outcome. So we'll go with that until either invalidated or proven correct, which is very much the approach I take in markets as well, right? Like, I'm like, here's my hypothesis, here's my base case, and let's see, right? And then eventually you let the chart play out and you're either right or you're wrong, whatever. So that's kind of the way I handle this whole thing. And at the same time, I try to be unapologetically me. Like I know I sound like a nutter, and that's fine because this is my experience and this is who I am, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. There's some people that will hear this, I know, and within the first 5 minutes they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a mind in wreckage, right? This is a man that has taken leave of his senses." And there are other people that apparently are resonating on this exact frequency because shout out Jens, by the way. I've just seen a tweet from Jens saying, "When are you going to talk about aliens? When Alien deep dive?" And I was like, "I'm literally recording one right now." So
Fuck it hell.
shout out Jens, by the way. He's been a follower for a long time. I've got a lot of love and a lot of time for that
Wicked,
guy.
wicked, wicked, wicked.
So yeah, there's some people like that you know they like this stuff, and if you can just be open and hear the conversation and not try to make any conclusions and not try to be like, oh, Camel, you said this. Like, no, well, we're all just spitballing. We're just having some fun, right? I'm just sharing my experience and it's
Yep.
right or it's wrong. It doesn't have to be judged necessarily. You can just take it and kind of ingest it and do what you need to do with it, right? Like, it doesn't have to be character defining, I don't think. It doesn't have to be anything. It's just we're a bunch of souls passing through this construct, and from time to time we like to talk about aliens or whatever else we talk about. I don't think it's that deep, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's like, do we really care? Does it really matter? Like, not really, right? I mean, maybe if aliens pop out from some underground base and the whole world is turned on a dime, maybe then it will matter. But for now, it's just some fun conversation, and it is what it is, right? Like again, it's kind of like in trading. You build a hypothesis, and it's right for a while, and eventually it will be invalidated, or eventually you take your chips off the table and you move on to the next one. So I don't really think it's any different to that. I wish I had more answers for you, but I just don't. Like I say, you could probably tell by now, at least, that I just kind of try to float through life on a cloud of positivity. And I'm not going to pretend like I don't have my moments because I do. But yeah, man, I'm just enjoying being here. I think all this stuff is really fun. And I think the key to having that fun is to not take it too seriously. Like it doesn't have to be a serious thing. Like the universe seems to have a joyful, playful attitude if you're open to spotting that. It seems to have like a juvenile kind of sense of humor to it, where it will just nudge you and be like, "Hey, man, it's cool." You know, it's not that deep. Don't take life too seriously. It's like a play for us to watch and be part of simultaneously, which is a fantastic, joyous experience. And maybe aliens are going to pop out and maybe they won't. But ultimately, does it matter? I don't think so.
I love it, dude. I love it. I think that's a really good point. I can't believe I had three subjects to possibly wangle through, and I didn't believe that aliens would take up this much time. Really, it's
I mean,
fucking
you've been super interested by it, right?
yeah. I'm interested in you, dude. You know that.
I'm
I'm.
just a crackhead camel, man. Like, I got
I,
some wacky ideas. I got some good ideas. I got some bad ideas. Uh, yeah, it is what it is, man.
yeah, definitely, dude. It. Do you know what? It's always an honor to have a conversation that with somebody where you can just talk in a free environment and express places that you want to go and just explore them. And I honestly believe that we are really early from that exploration, my personal opinion, that we as a society have become so entrenched in a very singular dimensional. a way of living that we've totally forgotten about the possibility of anything else going on. And with everything that's gone on and the pressures of everything outside of what we take for granted not actually working anymore, hopefully you follow what I'm trying to say. It's now beginning to open up. Oh shit, I'm lost. And it doesn't feel right anymore, but I really can't put my finger on why. Not for me personally. I think I've got some outrageous explanations for why, but I'm just talking about generally people. This is people that I'm talking to on a daily basis. The people are frustrated that what they believed in for probably most of their life isn't quite playing out the way they thought it should do. So that brings up tons and tons of questions of, oh shit, what the hell's going on? And that's really only happened over this last 5 or 6 years. So I love these conversations because it's bringing about open debate, open what the hell's going on, why the sudden shift. Everything was fine. I mean, up until 2020, I was fine. Everything was cool. Everything was planned out. And then all of a sudden, like from Jurassic Park with that great little icon on that computer when someone was trying to break in and it kept going, it's like something's wrong. And that's been overemphasized. And I think a lot of people outside of these communities, which is a very small percentage of the representation of the population, are really struggling with trying to understand what's going on. But there's a definite shift. So I love these conversations. I really do. You still
Me
awake?
too, brother. Me too. Um, Sorry, my dog's just come in. The wife's just got home.
All right. I love it
Dog's
when
just
you
come in
say
and jumped on me.
the wife,
Yeah, the wife, the wife.
the wife, the
Hi,
wife.
wife.
So it's really cool. So yeah, I'm going to wrap that up here. Don't go anywhere, dude. Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
thanks for
We
having me.
we I would love it if we could explore this more. Just these really open conversations, and where
Let's put it out there and see what people think.
yeah, I think. Well,
I
I'm
mean,
just
we can do it regardless of what they think, but it'll be
yeah.
interesting.
I think we need to
I'll
do
be
that.
curious to know how, I'll be curious to know what the distribution is, what the split is between people that think it's insane and people that kind of agree with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it'd be really cool for people to put in the comments of the video. Where do you sit? Let us know your opinions. Let us know if this sort of conversation should happen. Let us know if these are the sort of things that you're thinking about. What does that inspire you to think about more going forward? You know, what's the knock-on effect? You know, all those sort of things. I don't think it's talked about enough, really. I don't think there's enough genuine emotional feeling conversation going on, especially in the social media space because everyone's chasing views and whatever. That's
Yeah, and
cool.
I think some people lack the ability to kind of just hear things.
Yep,
Like you don't have to have a reaction or a visceral reaction to everything.
yep,
You can just kind of hear two guys talking
yep,
and be like, I'm just listening. Right? You don't have to you don't have to allow yourself to be triggered by something that seems insane. Um, whether that's our conversation or like just some silly mainstream news article, because I see it all the time, right? Like I'm like, oh, there's a cycle low. And you can always see like one or two comments in my YouTube channel, and they're like, all bets are off. Iran's going to war with whoever, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I can't imagine being having that kind of visceral reaction to a news headline, right? Like you don't have to react. You can just be. You can just be and you can observe. And
Yeah.
there's immense power in that. There's immense power in just sitting back and watching this thing play out.
Yeah. It I'm glad you said that because do you know that I'm doing these blogs
Yeah.
on my channel? I very quickly, other than the normal introduction of why I'm doing these things and the general talk about, I wanted to keep it away from finance tonight, but very generally, but it ties in with what you just said. Very the general things about why I'm doing Bitcoin and what I believe in, blah, blah, blah. It's all evaporated now. And now I go out on a walk thinking, I've now got to orchestrate content, but my deep down belief is I just need to be me and let things happen, which is basically what you just said. I have no, I believe in a product. I believe it has a use case. I believe that I can put my time and energy into it as a risk assess based and analytical way. What more do I need to do? Because the rest of it is out of my control. Totally. So, what else can I talk about other than the beauty of the walk, the beauty of the observation of the walk, and maybe a little bit of ad hoc conversation around people's fears around maybe exploring an idea. It's really, really weird.
I
I,
if you lack the ability to even watch the video before making a judgment, like you're just painting yourself into a corner. And I can't imagine carrying that kind of hatred around where you're like, you have to kind of lash out at people or whatever. And like this guy is, I mean, I'm sure you'll watch the video. Whether you care about the first hour, which is like all financy stuff, is pretty complicated. Like even like for me, it was pretty complicated.
yeah,
He's really skilled at what he does. But like you've got to watch the second hour when we're talking about spirituality. He's like a really cool guy. Really had some profound wisdom to share. And yeah, I just think like people are so willing and ready to exclude themselves based on disagreeing with someone's chart on Twitter. Like you think it's going up, he thinks it's going down. That's okay. You don't have to carry a hatred or a resentment for that. And I experienced a very similar thing with Tony the Bull. I've had Tony on the channel a couple of times,
yeah,
and like any trader, he's made some very good calls and he's made some, one or two bad ones. Just like I have, right? I've had more than
sure.
my fair share of bad calls,
We
right?
all do.
That's part of the game, right?
That's what
That's
we
why we
do.
manage risk.
Yep.
But it's funny how any trader I know respects him and respects his work. And yet there are seemingly unlimited people online that can't wait to be like, this guy is trash. And I'm like, I'm sure if you actually watched the video, you would see that 90% of what he presented, you would probably agree with, right? It's like this self-imposed limitation where people feel the need for whatever reason online to be very quick to jump to conclusions and very quick to kind of try to burn people at the stake and really this is a sign of weakness because if you can just take a more neutral approach when you see information that even if you don't agree with it, it shouldn't affect you. You just go, "Ah, I disagree," and you move on. It doesn't have to ruin your day to the point where you've got to lash out at people on the internet, right? So yeah, I would just encourage anyone that's made it this far. I mean, if you've made it this far, you probably already have this kind of mindset, I would think.
I would think you'd be
But
either really high or pissed.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, like all of this anger and resentment and stuff is self-imposed, right? It's okay to just hear people talk and you don't always have to take a side. You don't
No,
always have to pick a side. You can just be an objective observer. You can be a neutral observer. And I think there's immense power and freedom in that.
100%. It's one of the I can so relate to that, dude, because the walks. I'm going to bring the walks up again. It's. I find myself thinking, do I either create a false narrative of the walk that I'm doing, or do I just record the observation of the walk that I'm doing? And that's basically what you're saying. And for me, morally, I just want to record the observation of the walk that I'm doing. And that could be anything. It could be me having a bad day, good day. But as long as I express that in that format and that way of thinking and that way of communicating, or I might just, oh, look at that flower. That's really cool. It's irrelevant. It it's all about the observation of our day to day and putting it into a perspective and very eloquently put by yourself. I love it. I absolutely love it. And but I see so many people don't get it, and that just tells me that one that I'm not judging anybody, but I'm just maybe looking at life maybe a little bit differently. But at the same time, I'm fully aware that other people aren't ready to receive that concept of thought process. And that's not me being better than them. That's not them being worse than me or better than me or me being worse than them. It is just pure observation of where you are. And that's the learning curve, really. I can't put it in any simple words than that, really.
Yeah, for sure. And when you go on those walks, like it's a illustration of how you can just be present in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, here I am, a soul on a walk.
Yeah,
And I love the way that like you're walking along, you're talking, and then you go, oh, look at this,
yeah,
a flower. Or you go,
yeah,
oh, look over there, it's a wildlife. Like, oh, look at this bird. And like it interrupts your conversation.
yeah,
You're like in the middle of talking, you're like, whoa, whoa, hold up, here's a bird. And it's just so real. It's so
yeah.
that's how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be in the moment, you're supposed to look around you
Mm.
and you enjoy the simple things. And the rest of it's really not that important, right? It's not that deep. We don't have to pick a side. We don't have to agree or disagree or agree to disagree. We don't have to do any of that. Like you can be quite neutral and you can just enjoy
Yeah.
the experience of it. And I love, like I said, I love the way you stop along the way and you go, oh, look at that. That's interesting. Oh, look at this. This is beautiful. Whatever. Like, I think people would do well to adopt that in their day to day life rather than hanging around on Twitter being ready to be like, that guy made a mistake one time. I'm going to hold it against him for months into into the future because he said he was bearish Bitcoin or whatever. He said he didn't think silver would go up and it went up. Like you know what I mean? Like I mean,
Yeah, 100%.
like
It's all over the space. It's the I'll be ever so frank with you, dude. My observation, that is what it is. This whole space is all about how can I improve myself, but not at a level of going out for a simple walk. It's all about I'm so pissed off with the position I'm in. I want answers, and I don't understand how to find those answers in a complete natural state of mind.
yeah, yeah.
That's what it is. And it's it's yeah, it's all over the place. Which is why I try and bring that. Guys, just be normal.
I've thought about, to be honest, I've thought about doing it myself. I thought about doing a live stream on a dog walk, but
It's so natural.
I thought about doing a driving one as well, just like
Yeah.
drive
But it's
drive to the
nat
next
it,
county or whatever.
dude,
But
it's so natural. It's an it when you deeply really think about it, that whenever we're in the construct of doing whatever we're doing during a day, we are immensely immersed in thought. And most of that thought isn't at a grounded level. where we're free to think about things in an open type of way,
Yeah.
you know, or it could be. And that's a real reflection of day to day. And I don't think we see it. All we see is orchestrated. This is what my audience wants to hear. And I really feel obliged to try and give them what they need to hear because that's what I think they need to hear. But really, most people just want to hear normal, nothing more, nothing less.
Yep.
It's really interesting.
Have you got any more questions scribbled down?
No, dude, I have, but probably that would invoke another 6 hours of conversation. I think I've done the aliens thing, mate. I've really enjoyed this. It's been really
Yeah,
cool.
me too. Me too.
I'm going to kill the recording now, and maybe we can have a chat afterwards. But thank you so much. What an insight! It's. I so look forward to just talking to people at an open, natural level. I really do. I really appreciate it, mate.
Oh, mate, it's always a pleasure. Always really enjoy these chats with you, as you know, um,
Yeah,
on or off camera.
yeah, exactly.
And I hope, yeah, I hope people like it. I hope people like it. I hope they can just listen without having to take a side, you know? I hope they can just see if they resonate with it, consider it, whatever. Are you in trouble?
No, 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 no. My wife's struggling to lock the front door.
Oh.
Well, as I just said, like I saw it. Don't worry.
Um,
No, we keep all the doors open because it just well tries to blow a little bit of crude air for the house.
is your house hot as well?
Oh, that's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, I know. Our houses are set up to be warm in the winter, aren't they, in this country? And
Oh,
then you
100%. Yeah.
get a bit of sunshine in the middle of the year,
Yeah.
and everything's melting.
We all melt. Yeah, dude. At the end of the day, I've just really enjoyed the conversation with my mate.
Yep, 100%.
And it's out there in the universe, and we've prodded and we've probed and just been open. I haven't hidden nothing. You need to ask me a little bit more, dude.
Do I?
Yeah, definitely. Don't let me get away with just probing you all the time.
I did ask you a few things, I
You
think.
do, yeah. I know you do. I might have to have another whiskey in a minute, though.
I go on the thing is, you set me up to go on rants, and then those rants I go on tangents, and then you're like, wait, you said all this. What about this? And then I just go again.
Yeah, this, this is one of the great things I love doing about these because when you become the observer, um, you have a tendency, well, if I condition myself to do that, I have a tendency to like to hook into certain words people say and how they phrase things. And I think, whoa, I'll let you continue your rant, but I'm going to go back there.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
But that's because it's just interesting me, which is what
All
we
right,
would what we would do if we wasn't recording. So
let me ask you this then.
go on.
What do you think about the aliens idea?
Okay, I've got to cut a long story short, but I am. Oh Jesus, mate. See, this is like another 3 hours now, and I haven't got another 3 hours. But I deeply believe that. Oh my God, you're forcing me to put it out there now. I deeply believe, and I've spoken to you about this before, that we're not alone. I have often, through the 60 years of my life, have come across situations where I cannot explain it, but I know I don't belong or haven't come from this, what I would call neck of the woods. So when I look at the issues and the problems of modern humanity, then it would hardly surprise me with my feelings of I don't belong here and I come from another place mapped out in the universe, which sounds really weird, but I believe in it. It would not surprise me if there was a possible intervention to keep this world along the tracks of what it possibly was always meant to be for the universe and construct of consciousness. Wow, that's a bit deep, isn't it?
So, if you had to bet,
Yep.
aliens show up at Easter next year or no? Which way you going?
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question so I can quantify the answer for what end result.
What do you mean?
What would, when you ask that question,
Yeah.
what would be for your end result for them to turn up? What would be the
Oh,
purpose?
I'm saying like, do you think it's? I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think it's likely? Do you think it's highly likely? Do you think it's likely? Do you think it's highly unlikely that we get to Easter next year and there has been some paradigm shift, whether that is a fake alien invasion psyop, whether that is aliens pop out from underground in these deep underground military bases, or do you think it's more likely that we get to Easter next year and we've basically made no progress in terms of we're pretty much where we are now, right? Like there's no real hard evidence. You have to go down some rabbit holes. You have to kind of make some leaps. You know what I mean? Like which of those scenarios do you think is, you know, what's your thoughts? What's your intuition saying?
Okay, I'm working on my gut feeling. Would be if I believed in the construct of our existence going through this timeline on this planet, in the way we physically, in this dimensional way that we physically experience it, if that was in jeopardy to the bigger construct of the universal consciousness of how it works, then if that was to highlight before Easter next year, then yes, we would see some sort of intervention. But if it
And
wasn't, we wouldn't.
how do you think humanity will handle it? Let's be clear. Let's say it turns out aliens have been living here for 100 odd years at least. They've been working with the government. They've been hiding in these underground military bases, and they pop out next year. How do you think the majority of people handle it? Do you think they're open to it, accepting, or do you think they lose their minds?
I would probably. That's a multi question answer. I think if the concepts of the majority of the people on this planet were so desperate that they needed some sort of messiah out, outlook, alien, intervention to bring back some sort of humane love, or or some sort of ordinary construct of how we're used to living, then most people would embrace it. It would all depend on how bad the situation is. If we was all okay and in the construct that our lives were okay, money was okay, as a rule, everything was fine, then maybe the concept of outside influence could be construed as a fear and a attack against us. Then that could be construed as something that we'd all worry about. I think it's got two ways of going. I think it would all depend totally on where we are as humanity. And I, I'll be honest with you, Carol, Camel, and this is no reflection of everybody, but from my day-to-day experience of having to get out of this bloody house and go out and communicate with with Joe Public people in society, then I think we are at a stage where people are sort of pissed off, but they can't really put their finger on why they are. But slowly starting that is starting to change, and people are starting to talk about this isn't quite right, that isn't going right. I think we're so early in that process. So unless things categorically change over the next sort of 8 months to Easter next year, which they could do, obviously, where we get that desperate and we need an outside influence to bring a bit of neutrality back to our lives. Yeah, I would be more interested in having a conversation of what that could be, what could produce that. I think that's more of a fascinating conversation. I don't rule out the concept of outside influence, like outside influence at all. You know, but what really interests me is what would lead up to that. What would have to happen? That's the bit I'm really interested in.
Do you think you could handle speaking to one face to face?
One what?
Alien.
Oh, I'm speaking to you, aren't I?
Cheers, mate.
No worries at all. I thought I'd just throw that in. Dude, I don't know, mate. I might have met God knows how many aliens and whatever,
Do you ever
but
wonder? Do you ever wonder that? Do you ever wonder if like you just never really realized it?
I
You weren't
do,
paying enough
yeah.
attention when their eyelids blinked the wrong way or something. Do you ever wonder this?
Yeah, I mean, I've interacted with people sometimes, and I've walked away and I thought, oh shit, that wasn't really human. But we spoke about that with cats, though, didn't we? And dogs.
Yep, yep.
Do you know what's the definition? What is the true definition of alien? Alien can be anything outside of what we think is normal.
Do you know, I don't watch the news and the weather and stuff like that.
Yeah,
My mum is a chronic television watcher.
yeah,
And it's funny actually. Like I go around, I say hello to my mum, and she's like, "Oh, I'll turn the TV off because Camel hates it." Right? But every once in a while, I walk around there and there's something on TV. Oftentimes, I find it's the weather or the news, and my mum thinks I'm mental, right? But I'll be pointing at some person. I'm like, look at their eyes. I'm like, that is not. Look at his eyes. That's not a human. That's not human. My silly mum will be like, oh, shut up. Like, of course he's human or whatever. But there's something about these people. Occasion, not all of them, but occasionally, I'm just like, nah, I don't buy it. Like, it doesn't look quite right. And yeah, like maybe it's projection, maybe I'm wrong, whatever. But I'll be interested to know if anyone has had that same experience. But yeah, some of those news presenters, I'm like, bro, that's an alien.
it oh man, it's yeah, it's just there's so many questions, isn't there? It's everyone's perception of what alien would be, you know.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
Yeah, go on.
There's a there's a there's a study or whatever that showed people that chronically watch adult content, right, desensitize themselves and increase their overall lust. And if you show those people a transgender, oftentimes they won't notice, right? Sounds crazy, but they're like, "Oh, what a really hot woman," or whatever, right? But if you then show, if you take a man that is not a chronic consumer of adult content, maybe just has a wife or whatever, goes to the bar every once in a while and chases some women, they can detect the trans immediately. They're like, that's a man, right? And it's thought that chronic consumption of that adult content increases your lust, and when your lust is high, then pretty much anything with a pulse will do, right? Whereas if you're more in control of this kind of like reptilian urge, then you can very quickly distinguish between what is biologically incentivized and what is not, right? It reminds me of that. It's like because I'm not a chronic consumer of mainstream media, news, whatever, I go round to my mum's house and I see something on TV and I'm like, that looks like a fucking alien, bro. I'm like, look at this guy's eyes. They almost don't even look like it makes me unsettled. That's what makes me say it. I'm not just saying it for no reason. Like I look in his eyes and I'm like, I feel weird internally, you know? It's almost like yeah, if you see a lady boy in Thailand or whatever, you go, well, something's not quite right there, right? But obviously, if you're ultra desensitized to that, you just go, oh, a pretty lady or whatever. And it feels like the same. Like when I watch my mum watch the news, she's like, yeah, this is normal. And I'm like, nah, look at that. That's fucking weird. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It reminds me of that anyway. Like, yeah, I think it's a similar vibe.
It, it, there's so much power in observation of our senses. And I think that possibly if I recognized that power of concentrated observation through our senses, sight, hearing, all the basic stuff, touch, all that sort of stuff. If I recognize that at some point in humanity, I would recognize how easily, if that was to be manifested in a consistent basis, how it could be manipulated. That is one powerful weapon because then it starts to desensitize, obviously, other parts of your senses. And I personally believe over decades, centuries, then technology, blah de blah de blah. We're getting into that really sort of way out thinking. Really, I believe that possibly if a body of people or one person that turned into a body of people have recognized that and how it can incentivize their tribe or their cult or their beliefs, then they've got their heads up on working the best way to manipulate society that lives in a 3D sense orientated reality. Now, unless you're disconnected from that to a degree, then you just fall into that trap. And unfortunately, I believe that most of us fall into that trap.
Makes sense.
It makes 100% sense. If you
Yeah, for sure.
stare at a banana for 20 years,
Sounds gay.
well, it does. I could have picked something else, couldn't I? Okay, I'll pick an orange. That sounds gay as well, but if you stare at a subject for 20 years, 30 years, and at year one, someone said that's an orange, and you've spent 5 years before that believing that's an orange, and then over the next 20 years, someone's very slowly convinced it's an apple.
Yep.
Eventually, you would either take notice and just, yeah, it's an apple, and forget that it was ever an orange.
Yep.
TV,
TV's
propaganda.
weird, man.
It's
TV is
it
weird.
it 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 it's even what we're doing now. It's consumption of a very low bandwidth of information that becomes conditioned to your everyday life or where you forget to open your bandwidth and come away from that to remember who you really are.
Hmm.
So powerful. It's not a
Yeah.
knock, it's just an observation. And I think we're at that point where maybe some of those unlocks since 2020, some of those unlocks are just unlocking at the back of people, but they're not sure why. Which is why I think when you look at the adaptation of, dare I say it, Bitcoin, the big conversation that's going on about money and debt and you know the talks about gold, silver, sound money, da 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 da. It's all it's all unlocking those. Oh, okay. Yeah, that doesn't quite make sense. It's unlocking, but we're at such an early stage at the moment,
Yep.
which gets back to originally what you were saying and asked me a question about between now and next Easter. Then there's got to be something that triggers that really quick sensation of either fear or unlock of, oh fuck, that's it. I want to change. Something would have to happen at that drastic level. Interesting.
Wild times.
It's extremely wild, dude.
It's
Extremely
going to get
wild.
even more wild if I'm right as well.
It could be. Yeah, definitely. We spoke about it so many times. It is a wild time to be alive. It doesn't take a lot of observational view if you're prepared to get off your back. This is my opinion only. If you're prepared to get off your backside and get away from the reality of what's in front of you sometimes, you get all the confirmation every day
Yep.
from what we see naturally out there in the world, which can confirm everything that you're consuming online. You really can. It's it's how much we can detach ourselves from that link of our phones and our computers to realize it. It's
Yep.
happening. It's happening in the older generation as well, dude. They are really, really starting to think, oh shit, this is fucking fucked. Something's not right. It's really coming out, especially in the older generation. They're all talking about it because
Okay.
they've got that broad experience of this wasn't how it used to be. This
Oh, yeah,
wasn't
that makes
this
sense.
this wasn't what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And why the hell are my children suffering? And
Yeah.
why the hell are my grandchildren suffering?
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that. So what the hell's gone on? And that has been so observant. It's very easy for us to all say it's okay for you because you're in a privileged position.
Yep.
Not you or me, but the older generation. And yeah, they've ridden the times. They've got the benefit of it.
Yep.
But when you actually talk to them, they're more concerned about, oh shit, we're okay. But what about my kids? What about my grandchildren?
Yep.
Because they are not going to experience the same.
Yep.
And that's a very, very interesting observation that I've seen over the last year and well, probably 18 months.
Interesting.
It is really interesting, dude. We all might sit there and think the boomers have had it brilliant. And yeah, they probably have. But they are very concerned about their children and their grandchildren not
It's
having the
pros
same
and
privilege.
there's pros and cons, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like on the one hand, the property is the obvious one. Like if you're old enough to have bought a property 40, 50 years ago, then you've done all right on paper, right? You bought a house for a lot less than it's worth today. But there's cons too. Like the technology has evolved to a point where a lot of boomers, through lack of a better word, have not been able to keep up. And it's not even because they couldn't, it's just because it didn't occur to them to put in that extra bit of time to kind of keep up, right? They just kind of they didn't need to. They're like, I got my house, I got this, I got that, whatever, I got my pension. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to. Why do I need to learn how to use Chat GPT? Right? Why do I need to learn this, that, or the other, whatever? But at the same time, by taking that approach, they have fallen behind in some of the technological aspects. And then if you're a 20 something, you could argue, well, yeah, you've been pretty much locked out of property to a certain degree, but you had Bitcoin, right? Like, if you'd have been paying attention, then you could have probably already overtaken your boomer parents or grandparents, whatever, by DCAing into Bitcoin with a small amount of money every month for the last 10 years. Now, not that many people switched on to Bitcoin 10 years ago. I understand that completely. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's every generation has something it can get hold of. And let's be honest, if you're a boomer that has bought a house for a tenth of what it's worth today, right? A lot of them just got lucky, right? Because if you think about it like this, if those boomers knew what was going to happen to property, they wouldn't have just bought one house, would they? They'd have bought as many houses as they could get their hands on. They'd have had 10, 15, 20 houses by now, right? But the reality is, they didn't know. They were just doing the hamster wheel. And it just so happened that the currency got debased at the rate it did. And now their house is worth a lot more. And I see a lot of like younger people that are mad about that. They're like, oh, yeah, these houses are unaffordable. But it's not the boomers' fault, right? They just bought a house and the central banks debased the currency. And now that house is a lot more, well, it's not even a lot more expensive. It's the currency is a lot weaker, right? That's really what happened. And like I say, if they were really visionary, if they knew what was going to happen, they would have bought more than one house. But most boomers they don't hold 10, 15, 20 properties, do they? They just have one
Exactly. Yeah.
because they didn't see anything, you know what I mean? They just played the game.
That wasn't the dream.
That wasn't exactly.
It wasn't the dream. The dream was work hard till you're 60. They changed the goalposts for
Yeah.
women anyway.
Yeah.
65 for men, work hard, job for life. You know, I'm going back to when I was 16. Job for life, property, get a house, bringo, save into a pension, work hard, hassle, hustle, do what you can, enjoy your social time. If you was playing the game, you could live a pretty mediocre life and all your neighbors were doing the same.
Yeah.
Everyone socially,
Yeah.
yes, there was exceptions. There's always been exceptions. That's history. But as a rule, everyone had the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
anymore. It's broken. So broken, it's ridiculous.
But I see so many people that are really quick to kind of blame the boomers.
Yeah.
But like I said, they didn't see it coming any more than
No,
anyone else did. Because,
not at
like I
all.
said, if they did, they'd have 20 properties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
If I knew what I knew now when I was 16, I'd be have loads of property.
Yeah. You would have bought as many as you could put. You'd have over leveraged, right? You'd have got debt on debt on debt on debt on debt because it was a guaranteed 10x.
Yeah. But
Right?
I'm gonna spin that now. If I knew today what I knew when I was 16, I would have saved my money until the opportunity to take advantage of the next stage
Yep.
and put it into that.
Yep.
That's powerful because that says that we have gone through a change and recognized that the dream for some generations wouldn't play out. It's got to, it can't play, the dream cannot play out for every generation. Some generations have got to go through that change. And I happen to be part of that generation to a degree. And
Yep.
my, next generation down are definitely part of it. It's fascinating. It's a wild time to be alive, and
Sure is.
you either embrace it or with a positive attitude and just accept it and just go for it and try and find opportunity within that change, or you blame everyone
Yep.
and say it's not fair.
Yep.
It's mad. This is another subject, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It's
How long have we
true.
been, how
So
long have we
true.
been going for?
Over 3 hours, dude.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
No one's making it this far, let's be honest.
Well, if they do, they do. I've enjoyed the conversation anyway. I'm going to stop the recording now anyway, mate. And then if you, I do want a quick chat with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I'll nip to the loo and then
Yeah, I'll probably
I'll
give
be
you a
back.
call on your phone if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, mate. Yeah, no problem at all.
Is that right? I've really enjoyed this. You all know where to get to Camel. You all know where to get to me.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
for sure,
I,
for sure.
I've loved this one-on-one. It's a long time overdue,
Yeah.
and yeah, we've happened just to record a conversation that me and Camel just like to have. So if anyone's made it this far, that's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. And
Well,
you,
thank you for having me. It's really good to catch up and
oh,
yeah,
dude, it's fine.
hang up and give me a call on my mobile. We'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll do, dude. No worries. Take care.
All right, all the best. Cheers,
See you,
Uncle.
dude. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
bye, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.